Yep.
Yeah, she's here.
Perfect. So we're at great. Here we go.
Did you say we could start? Is that your way of telling me to go?
Madam Chair, if you're ready. Yes.
Okay, sounds good. And we'd like to call this meeting to order, and it is now, it is 6:01. Thank you for everybody being here. And it's a nice cold afternoon, evening in Boulder. It's beautiful outside, so I'm glad we're inside today. We do have a quorum, right? I know we're missing two, but we have quorum, correct? Okay, fantastic. So I'll officially call this meeting to order. Would any one of the PRAB members like to make a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll move. Mary Scott.
Thanks, Mary. I can't, because you're on the phone, I can't see your hand yet. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second.
Great. Oh, Elliot, hi. I didn't see you down there. Okay, great.
I can't get my video to turn on for some reason, so that may be why.
Okay,
We'll get
no,
it enabled pretty quickly here.
no problem. We got Mary Scott with the motion, and I put Chuck for a second. All right, great. All right, thank you. Now we'll move on. Hold on a second. Are we going to do the future board and tours now, Ellie? Yeah. Okay. All right. Great.
I remember from the retreat, thanks for bringing that up, Pam. What I remember from your retreat is you wanted to leave it here earlier in the meeting so that members of the
right.
community are here for public participation could also benefit from your
That's
upcoming
correct.
item.
Great. Thank you.
Great.
So we will now pass it over to Allie, who is going to present and highlight our upcoming activities.
I can do that. I'm going to share my screen because I think we agreed that that would be a process improvement also at your retreat if we were looking at it as we talk about it. So I'm getting that up.
Thank you. And
Folks,
Elliot's back, so that's good. We can see you.
great. Hi, Elliot. I'm also going to take this moment since I have the mic. You'll notice there's a new member of our team with their video on. Scott Schutenberg is our new Deputy Director for Community Service. He joins us from the city of Greeley, where he spent the last 5 years and started his career actually in campus recreation at the University of Northern Colorado. We'll have a much more in-depth introduction in your December packet, and I'm certain you'll be hearing from him in the months ahead, but he's here and you'll see his name on some items. So wanted to introduce you all. We're very, very glad that Scott is here to help lighten the load for some of the heavier projects we have ahead, help support our team. So you'll hear more about that in January when we talk about our 2023 work plan. So let me dive into that, what you have coming in the next few months. So in December, the reservoir team is going to come up with you with their annual aquatic nuisance species. This is a very similar update to what they'll share with the Water Resources Advisory Board. They're working closely with our colleagues in utilities. As a reminder, at the end of the season, the state did identify a Eurasian milfoil in the Boulder Reservoir, and they've since conducted a survey. So the team will be giving results of that and how we plan to manage water quality at the Boulder Reservoir. This golf course item, I want to note it's in italics because we knew it was tentative. That has indeed moved. We're going to move that into the first quarter when we have a more thorough update based upon funding and based on the project timeline. In December, we're going to follow up with you on a conversation you have tonight. Stephanie and Stacy and Chris Passarelli and others have been working hard again to review the peak season at the Boulder Reservoir, and they're going to be bringing their analysis and recommendations for the 2023 season. In December, they'll report back on what the final operation plan is based upon your input tonight. If you look at these rows below, I don't know if you all can see my cursor. This is the section where we're trying to highlight some items that might be of interest to you. I wanted to let you know that actually this Thursday evening, City Council is reading a declaration in honor of International Persons with a Disabilities Day. And in that declaration, they're going to be honoring our own EXPAND team and presenting that declaration to one of our participants. We're pretty excited because it's not often that a city program is recognized and highlighted. The shared micro-mobility update that you all gave input to transportation on last month will be going to City Council in December. You can see here a summary of upcoming operational updates. I'll also let you know that this Saturday night is the Lights of December parade in downtown Boulder. So folks looking for a way to celebrate the holidays, that is happening Saturday night. And then you can wander over into the civic area to participate in the Snow Much Fun virtual augmented reality options. Looking into the new year, we're going to start bringing you an overview of our action initiatives. We'll be bringing the 2022 summary and some of these larger strategies related to the recreation centers, how we plan to update our aging infrastructure. You're going to hear a follow-up, the actual discussion on the Pleasant View access item that Doug is presenting tonight. Yeah, so I think those are the big highlights for the next quarter ahead.
Question, Allie, and it might be silly. The lights that you were talking about, that's different than the ones that was at the county courthouse the other night?
That's a great comment. So last weekend on Sunday evening was the switch on the holidays event, downtown Boulder,
Right.
in partnership with City Parks and Recreation. So that's when they actually turn on the holiday lights on the courthouse lawn. That's the 1300 block on the Pearl Street Mall and in the civic area. And actually I see Brian Beery turned his video on and he manages this area, and I'm going to let him give a little more information on that.
Sure, thanks, Allie. And it's in the packet also, but in addition to the lights this year, we also have these augmented reality features that have been added. There are 6 features on the mall, 5 in the civic area. You do need Instagram on your phone to access those, but once you pull that up, you can interact, take some photos with a couple of fun features that we have spread out across the area too. So that's a highlight this year, in addition to the lights that are in the civic area and along the mall.
Brian, I was there and it was fantastic. And your Santa and Mrs. Claus were just so authentic. They were fantastic. But your new stars this year, are they new? They look so beautiful when you're driving. They just changed the whole mall in my perspective. I thought they were beautiful. Did I freeze?
No, you're all good. Thanks. I'll pass along that feedback.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. I didn't realize it was different, so thanks. Allie, are you done? I'm sorry, it's going slow. Okay, great. We'll move on to public participation. Rosa, are you with us, or will Allie help me with this?
I think we're still working on it. So Allie, if you might be able to read that off, that'd be great.
Well, I'll read this part. So this portion of the meeting is for the members of the public to communicate ideas and concerns or concern to the board regarding parks and recreation issues for which a public hearing is not scheduled later in the meeting. Tonight there are, and I believe we have about 8 from 8 public speakers. The public is encouraged to comment on the need for parks and recreation programs and facilities as they perceive them. All speakers are limited to 3 minutes, depending on the nature of your matter. You may or may not receive a response from the board after you deliver your comments. However, the board is always listening to and appreciative of your community feedback. So Allie, would you help me present the additional guidelines and then call on our first speaker? I'd appreciate it.
I can do that. So I am going to share these guidelines for public participation. And the city has engaged with community members to co-create a vision for productive, meaningful, and inclusive civic conversations. This vision supports physical and emotional safety for community members, staff, and council and board members, as well as democracy for people of all ages, identities, lived experiences, and political perspectives. For more information about this vision and the community engagement processes, please visit bouldercolorado.gov/services/productive-atmospheres. For tonight and this meeting, that means, are you all seeing my screen? Yes, okay. There are rules of decorum spelled out in the Boulder Revised Code and other guidelines that support this vision. And these rules will be upheld during this meeting. All remarks and testimony during public participation shall be limited to matters related to city business. No participant shall make threats or use any forms of intimidation against any person. Obscenity, racial epithets, and other speech and behavior that disrupts or otherwise impedes the ability to conduct the meeting are prohibited. Participants are required to sign up to speak in advance and use the name they are commonly known by. Individuals must display their whole name before being allowed to speak online. Currently, only audio testimony is permitted online. And so I'm multitasking here. I want to make sure everyone signed up for public participation. Please do click on the 3 bubbles in the upper right-hand corner of your Actually, sorry, we are in the webinar format, which means that we will be muting and unmuting people as they are available for public participation. And so I'm going to go, Rosa, if you can give me a head nod. The email you sent us with public sign up, are those in the order that folks signed up? Should I go in that order? Thank you so much. So if you'll get prepared. Patrick Edwards will be first, then Michael, and I'm sorry, I am going to mispronounce this and I hope you'll correct me, XU, Michael Zhu, Mark Grassman, Edmund Noyes. That's our first four. So I'm going to start by unmuting Patrick Edwards. And you'll have 3 minutes. I am working fast on my feet here. I'm going to pull up a timer and I'm going to show it in my video, and that will be your 3-minute timer. So Edwards, I'm going to unmute you now and you're able to begin.
Great. Thank you very much. My name is Pat Edwards. I'm a member of the Boulder Tennis Association board. We asked to have PRAB hold a meeting in the very near future seeking collaboration on the topic of the current and long-term issues confronting racket sports participants. A summary of reasons warranting a dedicated meeting follow. We are aware of the competing pressures and budget issues for Parks and Rec and its staff. Our comments are not criticisms of the department staff or other racket sports players. We are stating the reality of the situation. Per USA Pickleball, pickleball is the fastest growing sport in the US. There's a 40% increase in players in just 2020. BOCO Pickleball League leadership has done a great job in growing participation to over 300 members with many, many more unaffiliated players. Per the Tennis Industry Association, from 2000 to 2009, there was a 44% increase in players. From 2019 to 2020, another 49% spike. Platform tennis has experienced estimated 30 to 40% increase in participation just since 2020. How has the city responded? There hasn't been a new public tennis court built in approximately 20 years. There are no dedicated pickleball courts. No new platform tennis courts to augment the 2 lone unheated courts at North Boulder Rec Center, now lined for pickleball. The tennis community was not consulted about 9 of 28 public tennis courts lined for pickleball. This effectively takes them out of use for league play under Colorado USTA regulations. Unfortunately, it begs for confrontation between tennis and pickleball players given the limited availability of viable courts, and it could lead to pickleball wars being experienced no one desires, but is the case in many cities, and there are no public indoor courts. BTA board members with hundreds of years of combined experience in tennis used a USTA court condition guide to assess all 28 public courts. Of the 13 at the rec center, 9 are now dominated by pickleball players. 4 are regularly used by Gonzo Tennis for lessons most of the year. Gonzo does a great job and demand vastly exceeds available courts. 6 courts are spread around the city in small pockets. 8 of the courts we assess are in poor to unplayable condition. Most notably, Tom Watson's 4 courts ruled unsafe for play by the Colorado USTA. That leaves 7 net viable courts. Next year, this will be compounded by Rocky Mountain Tennis Club's 15 tennis courts being closed due to development of a public private housing for students. And this is going to throw hundreds of players out into the public court situation that is deteriorating. So we're requesting collaboration with PRAB to have the racket sports community help resolve these issues. Thank you very much.
All right, and next up is Michael, and I hope you'll tell me how to say your name should we correspond in the future.
Hello, Allie. Yep. Can you hear me? Yep. Yeah, my name is Michael. The last name is pronounced Shu. So, yeah.
All right, you're ready to go. We'll start the timer when you start talking. And Chris, thank you much for the assist. You're going to win Utility Player of the Day.
Cool. Yeah. So my name is Michael Shu, and I've been working with Patrick as well, working with the tennis community to raise awareness about the state of tennis facilities in Boulder. So one thing that we've done at the Boulder Tennis Association is we recently ran a survey about the state of tennis in Boulder, and we had 422 respondents for our survey. Today, I just want to share with you, 4 of those responses, and there's hundreds of responses that are effectively very, very similar. One person said, "I play in Boulder with long-established tennis friends. The condition of the courts are so bad that there often are trip hazards. I'd like to see Boulder make a commitment to improved court surfaces and better facilities, especially indoor, for the tennis community." Another person said, "When I play tennis, it is almost embarrassing when teams have to come to Boulder and play in our courts. We always have courts with cracks in them and weeds growing up or nets. that are not well maintained. We usually have a porta potty or nothing at all. I find myself booking courts and playing matches outside of the city of Boulder because it's hard to deal with the logistics of pickleball camps and the poorly maintained courts. Yet the surrounding counties have beautiful facilities like that one up in Longmont. Another person said Boulder desperately needs a public indoor tennis facility like Arvada created with Apex Center. It's crazy that Boulder people have to drive to East Longmont or Arvada to play indoor tennis. And another person said, I'm considering moving my family out of Boulder due to the lack of tennis facilities. And so, yeah, these 4 respondents are just kind of like generally what you'd find in the responses. They weren't like cherry picked or anything like that. So it's just kind of an indicator. We're just starting to go through the data, so we'll share more with you as we finish our analysis. But really, you know, part of it is that we were just, we think that we just can't afford to wait a year for Parks and Rec to start any kind of a land assessment, just given the pain that the tennis community is currently feeling. And we've already spoken at BTA to Arvada, Parker, Grand Junction, Longmont, and Steamboat, and we've made connections with all of those successful tennis projects. And so we have a really good idea about how to move forward with this. And we actually want to help with raising public and private funding for any kind of a tennis facility going forward. And so just like Patrick said, we'd ask for a meeting with PRAB to be scheduled sometime in the near future, dedicated to addressing Boulder's racket sports with BTA, Boco Pickleball, and Boulder Paddle League. Thanks.
And next up is Mark Grassman.
Thank you, Parks and Rec Advisory Board, for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Mark Grassman, and I love to play tennis. I'm also disabled. I am here to urge the advisory board to consider more public funding for tennis courts in the city. I've been a resident for over 40 years and have played on public courts regularly during that time. There are courts at the local recreation centers and public schools, but they often are not accessible to wheelchair tennis players. When I learned that Rocky Mountain Tennis Center had a program for wheelchair tennis, it was a real gift. I've been able to continue a sport that I love, and it has significantly improved my rehabilitation. As has already been mentioned tonight, the tennis courts at the Rocky Mountain Tennis Center will be lost due to redevelopment in the next 2 years, and the tennis courts at CU South will be lost due to the university's planned development. The wheelchair tennis program at Rocky Mountain Tennis Center is the only one in the state that features coaching and sanctioned tournaments. Their courts are accessible and they provide instruction and regular playing opportunities for wheelchair tennis. While they are a private tennis club, they encourage and accept non-member participation in their programs. Another one of their programs reaches out and promotes tennis and outreach programs to local schools for children that are disabled or less fortunate. Hopefully, the Rocky Mountain Tennis Center will be able to continue its programs that benefit so many people in the city, and the university will be able to replace its tennis courts at CU South. The dozens of tennis courts associated with these entities will soon be gone. I encourage Boulder Parks and Rec to schedule a public meeting soon to discuss and recommend the possibility of more public support from the city. Other cities have done this and have successfully built public-private partnerships. These have led to more tennis facilities for everyone as well as the disabled. An excellent example of this kind of project would be the Apex Tennis Center in Arvada. They were able to secure public support to build a facility that includes both indoor and outdoor courts with handicap access. Other examples have already been mentioned in Grand Junction and Sioux Falls. I know that the city has many needs, but surely improving tennis opportunities for the public and the disabled is among them. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. And next up is Ted Noyes.
Hallie, may I ask a quick question of Mr. Grassman?
Yes.
Can you tell me what are the modifications of the court that are needed for wheelchair tennis? What's different about those courts?
Mr. Grassman, if you're still listening and able to answer that question, the chair's curious, as am I, what you find not accessible about some of the courts in Boulder, the public courts.
Ally, I wonder if when you unmuted me, you muted him.
It looks like he's still able to talk. How about this, Mark? We have your email. We'll follow up offline if he's still able to talk and he's unmuted. So we'll follow up on that. Folks, if someone could, my email is Rhodes, RHODES. My first initial is A, so it's Rhodes A at bouldercolorado.gov. And I'm Ally Rhodes. I'm the Director of Parks and Recreation. I share Chuck's question. So with that, Ted Noyes, you are the next speaker up.
Welcome to the board and staff, and I appreciate the Ted Noyes. The full name is Edmund Noyes. I'm a 77-year-old retired Arizona trial lawyer and judge. I moved to Boulder in 2010. I'm a past president and current member of BCR, and I have an ownership interest in 2 boats and 1 LLC that owns a trailer. My one request tonight is that the board give staff the direction, advice, and consent to return the reservoir to the former opening hours of 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. In 2022, the reservoir opened at 9 a.m. in the spring and fall and 6 a.m. in the summer. Staff proposes those same reduced hours for 2023, last I heard. The additional fees from opening at 5 or 6 a.m. in this athletic community and warming climate would probably cover reasonable staff costs. Restoring the early hours would also be a big step towards repairing the staff-user relationships that have soured in recent years with staff's frequently harsh unilateral edicts regarding higher fees and fewer services. Staff has announced the 2022 reservoir profit of $100,000, which comes in part from increased fees and reduced services. You all know that this strategy, if carried on too long, generates more collateral damage than increased revenue. For example, in 2019, staff summarily banned rowers from using a boat rack on which I and many others had spent hundreds of dollars and hours over the years to build and maintain. In 2021, staff revoked previous consent and summarily banned LLC members from storing even 1 boat on our own boat rack. This move would have generated an increase in our storage fees of 217%. The latter profit-making effort actually reduced revenue when we moved the trailer off-site and took 3 boats to Union. Union Reservoir, by the way, opens at 6 a.m. from March 1 to October 31 every year. And it's no wake all the time, and the storage fees out there are less I pay as a non-resident than what I pay in Boulder as a resident. We prefer to row in Boulder, though, where BCR and many friends row. In conclusion, staff has advised the board that it proposes to extend flank season to April 1 and October 31. That's a good small step. I seriously request the board to give staff the support and direction they need to restore those early hours. And I am over and out unless there's questions.
Thank you.
Next up is Susan Adams.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm speaking tonight to ask you for your advocacy for the rowing community known as CJC, the Colorado Junior Crew, and BCR, which is Boulder Community Rowing. I'm asking you to support your reservoir staff to invite us to be reservoir partners, which will increase your revenue by offering Boulder County citizens a strong fitness community for your youth, adults, and silver sneaker patrons. This will stop us from being treated as a user group, which according to your staff requires you to charge us a progressive increase in early access fees. Let me explain. Our early access fee has risen from $30 an hour in 2019 to $100 an hour in 2022, with the declaration that it will incrementally increase to a total of $240 an hour over the next 2 years. This fee is the same fee charged whether there are 35 rowers at the reservoir or 200 general patrons, and this rate gives us no access to your building or bathrooms. Allie Rhodes has said this fee has arrived at by determining average hourly cost to operate the reservoir throughout the year. This average has no relationship to the actual cost of opening the res early. We also noticed that your staff charge triathlete groups such as Ironman this fee, with the difference being that they have to close the reservoir to the public, losing day use revenue, whereas we pay the same fee without requiring closure, which gives you a profit opportunity, especially when marketed well to the general public. With this increase in out-of-hours access, our membership now pays $310 a month to row in our programs when it used to be $195. And this does not include individual facility fee or storage fees for private boats, which brings the monthly payment to $372 per rower. This has decreased our membership numbers from over 87 in 2018 to 37 this year. In addition to this increase in the hourly charge, your staff have reduced the reservoir open hours and its wakeless hours, which are critically needed for our programs to access flat water. It is increasingly becoming inhospitable to store our boats at the reservoir because we simply cannot have regular access to our own equipment. Furthermore, University of Colorado moved their practice to the afternoons, which means the burden of paying the early access comes entirely on BCR's shoulders, no more cost share. We also learned that a decision was made to give the University of Colorado a $60 an hour fee, giving me great pause as to this being an equitable decision. In the past, a key card has been given to our paid coaches to open the gate, giving you a huge cost share and relieving management issues for Stacy Cole especially. Our coaches are all U.S. rowing certified, which means they know how to respond to a rowing emergency on the water. We've tried to negotiate with your staff to provide our own safety support, again, saving us costs, but are told no consistently. So I'm here to say to you, the advisory board, that Allie Rhodes, Stephanie Monroe, and Stacy Cole need to hear from you to increase the reservoir open hours, wakeless hours, and to do what you can to encourage them to treat us as partners, not adversaries. Thank you.
Next up, and my participant list just went away. Give me 2 seconds, is Roman. I'll be right there with that. All right, Roman, you should be able to speak now.
All right, can you hear me? Okay. All right, good stuff. Hello, my name is Roman Sammartino. I use he, him pronouns. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I've been using the reservoir for over 10 years, first as a rower with CU and now as a rower with BCR. And I've come today just to highlight a couple adjustments to the reservoir that I think would be really beneficial for our community in Boulder. Returning to the pre-COVID opening time of 5 a.m. for the high season, the initial change made a lot of sense just given the environment of how things were 3 years ago. But I think it's about time to return to how things were before then, at least when it comes to these hours. It really gives the everyday people in the Boulder community, such as myself, maximum use of the reservoir while being able to work a 9-to-5 job. I did notice that the shoulder season is going to extend April 1st to October 31st. That's going to be an awesome change. I'm really excited to see that proposal being brought forth. And the last thing I wanted to bring up is that I think there's a real opportunity to have more collaboration with impacted groups when it comes to operational changes at the reservoir. And I just want to highlight one specific example here to show what I mean. In April of this year, the rowing programs were given less than a week's notice of a usage restriction determined by the combined air and water temperature. And it was really, really impactful to the operation of the programs. And it wasn't really clear as to why this change was needed or the problem it was trying to solve. Top-down solutions like this can result in significant impacts to the everyday user. And I really think that having a more collaborative approach would bring a lot of buy-in to solving some of these challenges that do come up. I think talking to folks is really beneficial. So at the end of the day, I know this city has many simultaneous needs, but there is a huge opportunity here to achieve some great community benefit and get more use of that out of the reservoir. Thank you so much.
All right, next up is Mark Eller. You should be able to speak in just 1 second. There you go. Mark, you should be able to unmute yourself and begin speaking.
Great, thank
To be
you.
honest.
So my name is Mark Eller, and I have lived and worked in Boulder for,
Little more than 2, which is fine.
I think, Roman, you're still on the
Oh.
mic.
I got it. Go ahead. Thank you so much, Mark.
No problem. So I'm a board member at BCR, and I'm the incoming BCR president. And I'll try to not repeat too much of what my fellow rowers have just said, but maybe back up just a little bit from where we've been focusing on and just talk a little bit about the position of our nonprofit club in the community. So, I don't know if any of you have read The Boys in the Boat, but I would say that our club is sort of like the boys, the girls, the families, the students, the teachers, professionals, and retirees in the boats in the Boulder community. And we have a decades-long tradition of working with the city to provide nonprofit programming that hundreds of Boulder citizens have participated in out of the reservoir, benefiting from quiet, human-powered recreation in a natural setting. And we recognize that it's not easy for reservoir staff to manage the shared resource of the reservoir in a way that everyone agrees is equitable. But I will tell you right now that our board and our members feel like we have our backs against the wall. And we are not going to survive with the sharp increases in fees that we're faced with. Susan talked a little bit, and I'll repeat, $30 an hour just a few years ago is what we were paying for early access. And the talk now is to go $100 and even $200 per hour to have that early access that we depend on for quiet water in the morning. So the main thing I just want to emphasize for this PRAB group is that we're a nonprofit community-focused club that offers services to a broad cross-section of Boulder residents. We welcome anyone and everyone who wants to row, and we provide them with equipment, coaching, and support, and we give them the most affordable rates that we can provide, given our situation. However, and Susan also touched on this, we are treated, we feel, and we've been told, in similar fashion to the for-profit groups that contract with the reservoir. And I think that's a fundamentally flawed approach. Without substantial changes, our nonprofit group will not survive. So we really sincerely hope that we can work more productively with staff this year to find mutually beneficial arrangements. Rowers are known for their dedication and tenacity. We want to see this through. And I want to thank PRAB for allowing us to speak tonight.
Members of the board, there is one more person who signed up following the protocol that has folks submit their request by 4:30, and that is Larry McKeough, and I am unmuting you now, Larry.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, thank you. My name is Larry McKeough. I've been a Boulder resident for 33 years. My comments for the public participation portion of this evening's meeting are to speak about overmanagement and underutilization of the city's facilities. You'll hear from staff about the reservoir operation. In general, it is positive and very encouraging. As an open water swim organizer and paddleboarder, I have certainly gotten my usage out of the reservoir. I also support the positive trajectory as we all try to recover from the pandemic. That said, I'm always looking for room for improvement, and I think there is some of that room. This is stated with the best of intentions because as a frequent reservoir user, I feel both the pains as well as the joys of visiting the reservoir. I would encourage PRAB to delve deeper into the data contained in the attachment, as there's some interesting numbers. The small sampling of respondents that did not visit the reservoir satiates my confirmation bias in terms of costs and rules and regulations being two big contributors, along with the hours of operation also being included as a reason for non-visitation. I see these as early warning signs. The reservoir only pass proposal is an interesting proposal and will certainly cause me to reevaluate my own personal 2023 activity budget. I look forward to promoting it with the open water swim community and the paddleboarders I know should it be approved. Heading into 2023, how can we start to restore some of our pre-pandemic levels of operation, not only at the reservoir, but throughout the Parks and Rec system? This is a rhetorical question at the moment, and it's asked, having experienced the staff shortages that caused Spruce Pool to never open this past summer, East Boulder Rec Center opening at 6 a.m. versus the previous 5:30 a.m., and the reservoir hours of admission to be shortened, as we just heard from many of the Boulder community rowers. As a member of the Boulder community myself, the prices for the services are going up while the operations are curtailed either through regulations or hour reductions. The macroeconomic winds that are coming hint at recessionary pressures. Couple this with another viral outbreak, and it could be worse version of 2020. Personally, I hope none of that comes to pass. The pre-pandemic master plan is a guide to the future of Boulder's recreation amenities. It would be great for PRAB to encourage more creativity with pricing, timing, and exercising of their user groups, pick up some of the slack in the offerings to offset the unique challenges that weren't envisioned with the earlier plan. The Reservoir Pass option is a fresh approach to raising visitation rates and consequently revenue. I look forward to continuing to explore creative ways to provide additional services with city staff into 2023 and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. I think that was it for public comment. Is that correct, Ally?
That is the signups that we received by 4:30 p.m. today and following the process posted online.
Great. And for those of you who logged on and may not know the process, there is a process. There is a link on the website, and we're sorry we didn't get to hear from you today. But if there's anything that is really critical for you, if you could just please email Ally Rhodes, our director, and connect with her, or you could always email one of the board members, and we'll get back to you. But most likely we'll be working with our director, Ally Rhodes, on the item. So that being said, yes, go ahead. I'm sorry? Nobody? Okay. Now we'll move on to the consent agenda. Great. Now, Ally, I had a question for you, actually for Rosa. So we typically do two motions. This has it all in one. So can we, do I do one motion for the 2 minutes, or it's separate? Because I'm used to doing it separate for each meeting.
Item A is the minutes. So item A of your consent agenda is approval of the minutes from October and November. Those don't require a roll call vote. So you typically just do a hands up vote if you approve those minutes, and then you move on to the next items.
Right. But I was asking if they were separate, but we can do them together. Great. Can
You mean the minutes? Correct. If it depends on if the board agrees with them all and supports them as a package, then great. But if for some reason we need to separate them out, then we can.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, thanks for that, Pam. I wasn't following your question.
No problem. I probably wasn't clear. Can I get a motion for approval of the minutes from October 24th and November 7th?
Can I make one comment about the November 7th meeting notes? My name is misspelled. I'm pretty sure we're all familiar with who the Elliott Hood is on the PRAB, but I have two T's in my name, and that often gets misspelled. So just for the record, wanted to note that correction. Otherwise, I have no issue with the minutes.
If you all can hear me, I'll go ahead and correct that.
Yeah, you're back. All right, Rosa.
She was testing me. Like, can Ally do public comment? Way to stay calm, everybody. Thank you so much, Chris and Tim behind the scenes, for getting the timer and making that happen. This is why our team is incredible.
Keep calm and move on, or what is it? Something like that.
So I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes.
Perfect. Thank you, Chuck. Can I get a second?
Second.
Elliot, is that you? I was writing Chuck.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Great. Well, now we'll move on to updates from the Director of Parks and Recreation, Ally.
Thank you for that, Madam Chair. And for the benefit of our new teammates, and because we have some community members listening in, this portion of the agenda is where our department shares informational updates for the advisory board. There's a lot that happens in our department every single month. It's not all documented here, but there are some highlights, things that we think the board would appreciate being aware of. Updates, new programs. There's some great news about funding in here. And so we share these as informational items. And if a board member has any questions, I have an incredible team here that can answer any questions.
Chuck, go ahead.
So I had a quick question about the Halloween drive-in movie at the reservoir. In the past, we've had drive-in movies at other locations. I think the golf course was the most recent. What was the rationale for hosting it at the reservoir, which is a little further out of town and maybe a little less convenient to reach, as opposed to doing it again at the golf course?
I believe Brian Beery is available and he has oversight for our community events and activations. I'll let him take that.
Sure. Thanks, Allie. Hi, Chuck. The simple answer is that we had some uncertainty with the construction project out at the golf course this past year. And so with it, how far in advance we need to plan the event and do all the special event permitting, we chose the reservoir for the site based on some other feedback of drive-in movies that have taken place out there last year. And again, it was successful. I think it does have some advantages over the golf course in terms of its traffic flow, but you're absolutely right, it is further out of town. And so there's a balance there. So once we get on the other side of the golf course construction project, we'll take another close look at that. But they do accommodate about the same amount of people. So we really could go either way there.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Allie or any of the team? Great, good job, Ellie and your team. Do you want to move on to C, Parks and Rec project updates?
Yeah, so items B and C, and I believe D are all operational updates that we just have organized under items that are updates from my office, items that are planning and project updates, and then the operations update.
Okay, fantastic. And does anybody have any questions? I just am assuming that we'll move on since it's all bundled. Great, and there's no action items tonight, but so pass it back over to Allie Road to pass it over to whoever's going to be discussing the 2022 Boulder Reservoir Operation Plan Review.
Yeah. I wonder if just real quick, and I, you know, it's not often we have a lot of folks listening in at PRAB meetings. I wonder if Madam Chair and even members of the board will be talking, you heard public comment about reservoir operations, and there will be opportunity for discussion about that. But I wonder if you want a 60-second update on the state of courts and our plan to address the demand for tennis and pickleball, or do you all feel like you're in the loop on that?
Oh, I think an update would be fantastic.
Okay. Some of the folks listening in heard this. They were at our city council meeting a week and a half ago, and I shared very similar comments. And so folks, I hope you'll know that these words continue to be true. And for members of the board, if you have questions, please let me know. So as you heard, you know, from some of these tennis folks, and as we discussed during our master planning process, both tennis and pickleball are growing sports. While most of the community, from the statistically valid survey that we conducted in the master plan, thinks we have the right amount of courts, again, as you heard from some of the tennis, there's a concern about both the quality and the quantity of courts in Boulder. And I think that there's a real sense of urgency given the impending development of the Millennium property and the where the Rocky Mountain Tennis Center is, which is a private club with both indoor and outdoor courts. So we are paying attention, we are aware, and we are taking action on this. And all of it's directed by the policy that was recently outlined in the unanimously approved 2022 Parks and Recreation Master Plan. So first, as it relates to the condition of current courts, they're right, we're behind on maintenance. Starting in 2023, we're spending $200,000 a year on maintenance. That triples what we've been spending on tennis courts to better take care of the courts that we have. Tennis, Tom Watson is on that list. We know that it's way behind. Those courts are lit. And I want to note that also I heard a comment that said we don't have any we do have indoor pickleball courts. We do not have indoor public tennis courts. We also are working to maximize benefit through our joint use agreement with the Boulder Valley School District. So while tennis players prefer not to have pickleball lines on their courts, we do promote multi-use facilities. We're aware that the Colorado Tennis Association does allow league play on courts with pickleball lines if both teams agree, but it does take that agreement. So BVSD, because the courts that they have are dedicated for high school level varsity play, they will not be painting pickleball lines on their courts. And so that's one way we're trying to use many community amenities to meet the demand. We're also working to determine if and how we would partner on a racket facility in Boulder. We know folks are really interested in a public facility. As you heard, there are public facilities in our community. The most frequently cited ones right now are in Arvada, just south of us, and then in Steamboat. We're interested in that conversation. We have told both the Boulder Tennis Association, the Rocky Mountain Tennis Club, and the newly formed Boco Pickleball Club that we're interested in that conversation, and that we in 2023 have added to our work plan to look at a level of service analysis of the courts to determine if city land should be used for such a facility. That should be informed by demand. And really, what we're trying to make folks understand is that we have a responsibility to make sure that land and resources are very thoughtfully used. And so we understand we're not working at a pace that is meeting the sense of urgency and concern that these folks feel, but it is on our work plan. I believe that one of our next steps, Mark Davison is our planning senior manager, as you're aware, he's out of the office on vacation, but we had talked about reaching out to the groups to, even if it would help folks feel better that we're authentically listening and engaged, perhaps we should explore a letter of intent, just to explore, to identify that we do intend to carefully, thoughtfully explore a public-private partnership for a racket facility in Boulder. And so I guess I wanted to make sure we had space for you all to hear that it's on our work plan in 2023. We're making space for this conversation, both the use of land and a potential partnership. So with that, maybe I'll pause if there's questions, and then we can go into introducing the next item. I did the 10-second virtual pause.
Elliot, did you raise your hand?
No, I was doing a thumbs up. I enjoyed the update. Thank you.
Thank you. I enjoyed the update too. Thank you.
Yep. And so then folks who joined for public comment tonight with tennis, if somehow our messages aren't getting through, or, I mean, if it's just the pace, I understand that our timelines may not be aligned, but feel free to reach out and let me know how we can connect to make sure you understand that we're listening and we're here and we're on it. So with that, I'm going to shift gears to the Boulder Reservoir. So we have here tonight, Stephanie Monroe is our regional facilities manager, Stacy Cole is the Boulder Reservoir manager, and Chris Passarelli is in our business services team. We're so lucky to have talented folks across the department to help with data analysis, with decision making. And so this is, I think, the fourth year that we've brought you in the fall an after action review of our peak season. And as you heard from some of the rowing friends, there's a lot of folks who use the reservoir in different ways. And so for years, we've worked to make sure that the way the reservoir is used is balancing many different competing interests, that it's thoughtful about the resources that we use. And so once again, they're coming to you with their analysis of our 2022 season on several different key areas. They're going to share with you the feedback we get, their analysis, and our recommended action. And what we want from you tonight is your input on those, because we'll consider that as we finalize the 2023 operations. That's what we'll bring back to you in December. So with that, I will hand it to the team to share with you their great work.
Great. Thanks, Chris, for getting that up. Thank you, Ellie, for that great introduction. And yes, good evening, members of the PRAB. Thank you for listening and having us tonight as your guests. I am Stephanie Monroe, Regional Facility Manager. And as Allie indicated, I'm joined with my two subject matter experts who I could not do without getting through tonight's presentation, Stacy Cole, Reservoir Facility Supervisor, and Chris Passarelli, our Business Service Analyst. The two of them will help me with this presentation, and as well as tremendous helpers with the coordination and analysis of tonight's project. Chris, next slide. Sorry. In the following slides, as Ali had indicated, that we will be sharing our initial performance data for the 2022 season, then provide an assessment of our adjustments made for 2022, followed by the review of the proposed updates for our 2023 operations plan. Next slide. Boulder Parks and Recreation continues to align business practices with the guidance outlined in the new adopted 2022 Boulder Parks and Recreation Plan, as well as the Boulder Reservoir Master Plan. This part of the adaptive management, we have completed steps 4 of 5 after analyzing the 2022 operations and getting information through the data points and the community questionnaire. We are here today to present our recommendations and current intent for next year. We have 5 areas where we would like to have your input as we continue to work to improve them and share additional feedback and themes that we saw from our community members. Those 5 goals that we will be continuing through 2023 are reduction of ANS, bring storage fees closer to the market rate, incentivize sustainability, offer flexible continuous access options, and enhance access and cost recovery for watercraft permits. Now, how do we come up with these recommendations? You've heard this a lot from Regina. Just like our master planning process, we get input from the community. Everything in the master plan is framed by the city's sustainability, equity, and resilience commitments. And the recommendations are synthesized from the community engagement, research, leading practices, our staff input, and then policy. We apply the research, we receive input, and we then review policy and develop those solutions. We did post the annual questionnaire to the reservoir email list and we received 550 valid responses. And I do have to report out that we had to disregard 170, responses were removed based on repeated submissions, similar to what we shared last year. So with that, I'm going to send it to Stacy so she can talk about the reservoir operations.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
Sorry, I'm just doing some therapy on my foot here. Sorry about that. But when you say 107, does that mean same person multiple times or same email? What does that mean?
Yeah, Chris, go ahead.
I'm happy to speak to this one. Basically, several factors together indicated that one person was responsible for pretty much all of these, between IP address, device OS, and sequential timing. So one being finished and then the next one starting a moment later. And so yeah, it seems like it's pretty much one actor. Everybody largely engaged in very good faith.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Stacy.
Okay, I am going to talk about the reservoir operating season. The reservoir is a highly seasonal facility with the height of recreation use occurring from Memorial Day to Labor Day, when the reservoir is fully staffed and we're delivering all of our services, including our ANS services, our water safety services for boaters, our lifeguards for swimmers at the swim beach. On either side of the high season, we have what we call our flank seasons, which are the spring and the fall months. They see reduced staffing and not as many services, as we don't have our swim beach open at that time, but all of our other services are still available in those flank seasons. Next slide. The South Shore is visited by approximately 300,000 visitors in a typical year. The majority of these visitations happen in that high season time frame from Memorial Day to Labor Day, when the reservoir is charging its full access fees. In the flank seasons, users pay the reduced access fee, and outside of those flank seasons, visitors can use the South Shore area without paying any access fee. We will be going through a number of slides after this one, and I'm going to go through this one real quick, and then I'll wrap up with with how we're going to move forward. So in the 2022 operations, we expended about 1.2 million versus 1.08 million last year. And we saw a significant increase in our fueling costs and our staffing costs. Our revenue was slightly up at 1.28 million collected, but moving forward, we'll need to prepare to have sustainable operations in 2023 as our expenses continue to rise. We did see a return to our larger, medium and large special events, as well as our picnics, to pre-pandemic levels. Our events are still kind of in that recovery stage, and we're continuing to get more of those events back over the years. So moving forward, the next few slides are very intertwined, and we want to make sure that we can give you the full picture of what we're thinking as we move forward. So we'll proceed through the next few slides and ask that you please keep your questions till the end of that part of the presentation. Stephanie, you're up.
All right, thanks, Stacy. All right, the first operational outcome to review is the ANS program, Aquatics Nuisance Species Program. Boulder Reservoir institutes some of the strictest procedures and policies well beyond the standards that is dictated by the Colorado Parks and Wildlife CPW. Given the continued rising ANS risks, we intend to continue the moratorium of not issuing any new Class 5 permits and no new Class 5 watercraft. And we do not plan to loosen those restrictions on visiting other bodies of water at this time. This would include any new Class 5 permits for new boaters or for current boaters to replace their current Class 5 watercraft. And then in addition, restrictions on visiting other bodies of water would remain the same. Some highlights here, there were 74 Class 5 total boat permits issued in 2022. This is down from 84 in 2021. We did find that some Class 5 boaters decided not to renew their permits at all. And then something to note here, in 2019, we issued 144, which is twice the amount of what we have issued in this last current season. Next slide, please. Thank you. Our second operational adjustment to review are the storage fees. In 2021, staff presented to the PRAB concerns on how far below market rate BPR's reservoir storage pricing was. BPR charges $523 per year for gravel storage space, while the average in the area is close to over $1,700 annually. And again, last year, we BPR increased fees by 10% in 2022. Staff propose a continuation of the PRAB endorse a policy of steadily increasing storage pricing by 10% annually until BPR pricing is caught up to 2/3 of the average in the area. And in 2023, the benchmark gravel space would cost $632.50, which is approximately 36% of the 2021 market average. And then we plan to complete a new market survey along with the AAR process in 2023. Next slide. Okay, incentivize sustainability is the next item to review. In 2022, through the AAR process, we instituted a 25% entry discount on visits that are via carpool, foot, bike, etc. This discount would only apply to those paying gate fees during that high season and does not include anyone that entered during the flank season, twilight hours, or with an unlimited access pass. There was a total of over 21,000 discount entries, including adult, youth, and senior household. This amounted to almost half of the over 45,000 high season daily visits. Again, excludes that flank season, twilight, and pass. For context, those 45,000 daily entrance fee payers make up about 1/3 of the total people that visited in the high season. The remainder would have been user groups and pass holders. So total facility access revenue is down by about 66,000 from 2021, as discussed in our operational summary. So with that 138,000 of total gate revenue coming in from multimodal visits, the net impact of sustainability incentive, that 25% discount, was about 46,000, according to 2/3 of the gate. I'm sorry, accounting for that 2/3 of the gate revenue decline. Some interesting facts here. We found questionnaire respondents of over 2/3 of whom purchased a boat permit did say that incentive did not say that incentive had a significant impact on their behavior. But we know that this questionnaire is most captured input by our regular visitors. However, qualitative data from our gate cashier staff members indicate that this is making a difference where it matters most. They reported multiple families coming in, particularly during peak times. On July 4th weekend, patrons commented that they didn't usually come to the reservoir, but the 25% for everyone in the car meant they could come out and spend the whole day at the facility. So if this incentive is bringing new customers in and lowering barriers to cost-conscious visitors while encouraging carpool and sustainable transport, the program is achieving those city goals. And since revenue impact is reasonable and directly supports the climate goals, BPR recommends continuing offering this discount for gate payers in 2023. Okay, I'm going to pass it back to Chris. He has a number of slides here again that they roll together, so be patient. We're getting close.
Definitely, it's a good marathon. Thank you, Steph.
Of course.
Okay, so these are the last two topics. We've heard in public comments a mention of a reservoir access pass, and then we're also going to talk about those boat permits. So reservoir access, as we know, is a hot topic. The story begins a bit back in 2019 and 2020, when entrance fees across the system were all synchronized. So an entrance at, say, the North Boulder Rec Center cost the same as one to the Scott Carpenter Pool or the reservoir in the high season. And so the goal was to keep entrances consistent and aligned with cost recovery, as those baseline expenses of staffing, utilities, and overhead existed across the system, regardless of which facility someone was visiting. We finally completed this process of making our entrances consistent this year by separating the boat permits, particularly the large craft permits, from the bundled access passes that used to be part of the parcel there, so that they could purchase the entrance pass or daily access that works best for them. For instance, boaters that way are not paying for an access pass that could be redundant if they were a financial aid recipient or a Silver Sneakers member. So in the last couple of years, we added a 6-month pass and a summer fun pass, which were unlimited system-wide passes, to try to match the seasonal nature of our outdoor pools and the reservoir. But we've heard you loud and clear. Feedback has been consistent that many users really want a reservoir-only pass. So we put our heads together to figure out how we can do that while still balancing the consistency and PRAB guidance that we've received. So as we see here, the pink slice on this beautiful pie, 46% of questionnaire respondents stated a preference to access the site using a reservoir-only pass or bunches, while 29%, the light blue over there, still enjoy using a system-wide pass. So we like these options, but there's clearly some support there for a dedicated pass. So we do think that this year, bearing in mind the guidance to keep pricing tied to cost recovery and developing the price structure through a consistent methodology, we do think we can introduce a pass in 2023 to cover the full 7-month fee season at the reservoir. So that would include the flanks as well as the peak. And the real reason for this is the seasonal variability in the hours and pricing. So the fact that the services and hours are lower in the flank times, and we only charge $5 per person or $10 for a carload, means that when we put that through the process that we use to calculate our system-wide passes, we do think we can offer this. And you can see the pricing table at right. So yeah, essentially in exchange for not having the swim beach running that whole time, we could get people in the door. So the proposed pricing there is approximately $350 or $345 for a resident, worker, adult. For comparison, if you were to buy 7 1-month passes system-wide, it would be just under $500 at $483. But this methodology is still based on the costs that we are incurring at the reservoir. So that is the reservoir access issue. And now permit access. This is a big one. Everyone wants to get out on the water. So the previous section focused on access to the whole facility by all the users, but here we're going to zoom in on boat permit pricing and quantities. So the demand is still very high for the all season long small craft permits. They sold out for the first time ever in the first 24 hours. There was record interest. Meanwhile, though, in the past, we've seen about 20 or 30% of these permits not ever being picked up. So someone buys them and they don't take them home and go boating with them. So we tried to resell permits that weren't picked up through the peak in July, and then resell them to folks that might want to boat in the fall. But this took an enormous amount of staff time. The impact was pretty limited as far as how many new people got to go boating. and caused confusion for staff and customers alike. And in the meantime, we did continue to offer the weekday passes, which would only work for Monday through Friday, except for holidays. This would help fill in the gaps of the off-peak time, as opposed to, say, 4th of July and the weekends. And so this year, I should say, we did a massive increase. We added 500 permits for weekday visitors, small craft boaters, as well as 500 season-wide permits. And so in the questionnaire, we heard people want more permits. Understandable, we saw the interest. So while many requested daily or non-annual access for small craft, that's not a regime that we can implement while still meeting our ANS requirements. Our users and our permit holders need to commit to storage, inspection, and use procedures, since we depend on the knowledge of them to be experts to help keep our water clean. And so through Rocky Mountain Paddleboard, our on-site partner, we do offer rentals for people that want to boat on a shorter term there without an annual commitment. So while we would love to add more in the peak season, you'll see on the slide here, bullet number 2, we did observe essentially a doubling in lake patrol rescues with the small craft. I should say contacts, but they were situations that were of questionable safety. And so that was with 500 new season permits. And so between the ANS risks and these safety events, which occurred invariably on the weekends and holidays when resources are the lowest and interest is the highest, we are not able to add additional season-long passes at this time. But we do want to add another 500 on the weekdays because that operationally seemed to work well. And we do want to get as many people out on the water as we can without compromising the safety, the ANS security, and sustainable operations. So as far as what we recommend, as I mentioned, we want to put another 500 weekday permits in there just to make sure that there is an option while still maintaining safety. And we don't want to increase the strain on our limited lake patrol resources during those peak times. So as we look holistically at this, this is going to refer back to the previous proposal of the reservoir only guest as well. So we're proposing that for folks that buy a reservoir pass along with a boat permit, if they go for both of those, then when they come in and pick up their permit, we would offer 3 paper bring a guest passes for small craft permit holders and 5 for large craft permit holders. These would only work at the reservoir, but would be a nice way to help bring someone in if, say, they wanted to come along with you as you kayak, and they could rent a board and join you on that, or come join you on a large craft. So we're hoping that can help introduce new folks while also helping folks get their permit and commit to a season out at the res. Last but not least, we did talk about the increasing of expenses. I really want to make sure we emphasize on this. The Lake Patrol hourly wages have gone up approximately 50% since 2020. And the roles have become harder to fill as well. So we would love to have as many people out there running everything all the time, but it is the wages have gone up, as well as the fuel and utilities that we also discussed earlier. So as the ANS risks at surrounding bodies of water continuing to increase, and we have to keep those boat inspector positions filled, we're looking at the boat permit pricing. Last year, we did not increase the boat permit prices. We wanted to keep the impact minimal on folks. And instead, that was when we separated out the bundled access from the permits. So the value of them stayed largely the same. We acknowledge that has to go up to keep pace with our expenses. So we do have a 10% rise across the permit classes based on the increases in expenses that we've seen. But I do want to highlight the middle rows here as well, with the under 50 horsepower permit and the sailboat permit. When we took out the value of the access passes that used to be bundled with them, the sailboat, we pulled out that value directly, and it left them costing only $180, which really doesn't proportionally support the lake patrol and boat inspection services. So those permits, we do want to, by having a 30% increase, which would bring it up to about $250. That would then realign the expense of the permit with the services that are being delivered and the expenses that all go behind that. So thanks. I know that's just a whole bugaboo there. So that concludes, though, our 5 operational areas. So I will hand back to Stacy Cole to go over some last feedback and other operational tweaks that we're looking at.
Thank you, Chris. That was a great job. So just some more highlights and questionnaire results. The questionnaire results demonstrated that guests enjoyed their time at the reservoir. Over 3/4 of the visitors reported having a very positive experience. The main building is not getting used as much as we would like it to. So there are definite opportunities for us to look at options for activating that space a little bit more. Respondents rated amenities overwhelmingly as somewhat or very positive. And almost half of the respondents are happy with the balance between the no wake and shared lake time. And that the balance of those is we kind of want to adjust so that we can mirror the percentage of no wake time in the high season to the same, being the same in the flank season. So additional 2023 adjustments that we'll be looking at are extending the flank seasons from starting on April 1st rather than mid-April, and then running all the way through the end of October. And we ended those in mid-October this year. So that would provide lake patrol services on the water for those that extended 4 weeks. We definitely want to explore what kind of food options we can have at the main building area. And then, as I said, we're going to start to shift the no wake times during the flank seasons so that we will be increasing the total no wake time by approximately 6 hours per week to maintain that consistent 15% of the total lake time throughout all of our fee seasons. And back to you, Stephanie, to wrap it up. You're on mute.
Gosh darn it. All right. Thank you both. That was great. All right. So we are at the end and we have some questions up here. Does the first one is, does the PRAB propose support the proposed operational updates of the 5 topics discussed? We have them up there and we will be able to go back and forth on the slides because I'm sure you all have lots of questions. And then finally, to wrap that up, or is there anything else, additional feedback that you would like us to review and or look at for possible proposed operational adjustments for the 2023 operational season? So with that, questions, thoughts? Oh, I see Elliot already. Elliot, go ahead.
Thanks. So I have a couple of questions. I don't want to dominate all the time, so I'll try and group them together so to kind of organize the comment and questions I have. So my first question is around the sustainability goals. So do we have electric vehicle charging stations at the reservoir?
Yes, we do.
How many do we have?
Stacy, do you know off the top of your head?
Currently, there are 2 stations that have a total of 4 chargers.
Okay. Has there been discussion about increasing the capacity of EV chargers or stations at the reservoir?
We have not had those conversations, no.
Okay. Just given the clear, I guess, increase across Colorado and the country in EVs, and our city's sustainability goals being somewhat centered around electrifying our grid and our transportation system, I think we should look at that just as a comment. And in tandem with that, do we have specific goals around, like, I understand, as a citizen of the city, I want there to be fewer gas guzzling cars that drive out to the reservoir and take up a parking space. I want to see a higher percentage of people who bike or carpool or walk over there. But I recognize that it's a pretty long distance for most people to get out there. So that may not be the most feasible option for people, but it would be great if I know we're thinking about how do we increase the number of multimodal and non-gas guzzling, transportation visits to the reservoir, but I'm wondering if we have any specific goals around, sustaining the number of people or increasing the number of people that visit, but decreasing the number of, fossil fuel powered cars that come to the reservoir.
I can chime in on that, Elliot. We don't have facility specific goals around reducing vehicle miles traveled. It is a citywide goal that is one of the benchmarks that Climate Initiatives tracks, and we report out on. This is an area that the master plan has called out as an initiative we need to undertake in the next few years, is develop those specific strategies so that not only is the infrastructure resilient, but that our programming is thinking about that. We're not there yet. I can tell you that for the reservoir, there are strategies that get there indirectly. There are the strategies we talked about. You might not have been on the board. So in 2020, we shared, there is a planned network of paths to connect the heart of Boulder, which is just 3 miles from the reservoir, to the reservoir's gate. And OSMP actually owns land, has an undeveloped trail that connects from the intersection of 47th Street and J Road. It goes through the neighborhood behind the dirt roads there and connects to the Boulder Reservoir. It's not developed, and so bicycles aren't allowed. So there's infrastructure planned and not funded, and there need to be management strategies. We're not there yet.
Okay. Just coming from the education world, goals are kind of the way we drive toward targets. And I always find that it's helpful if you set a goal around certain percentages of things that makes you think critically about how to get there. But I totally recognize what you're saying. And it's great to hear that BPR is definitely thinking about all of that, because it's a pretty important thing for the city. So I'll be done after this, but my next question relates to the events that we've had at the reservoir, both the small and the medium-sized events. When are those events typically held? Like, are they middle of the day, afternoon, morning, evening?
So our picnics generally happen throughout the course of our operating hours. Our special events, which are open and accessible to the public, typically are happening in that daytime timeframe, or even before hours when they come in and start to set up, such as the triathlons and running races.
Okay. Have there been any complaints from neighbors or others about noise or anything related to those small, medium, or large scale events that we've had?
I would say this year we were very successful in monitoring sound, and we did receive one comment throughout the course of the year about noise, and it ended up that particular comment was investigated, and it was a non-conversation starter.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks, Elliot. Mary Scott, I see your hand up.
Hey, it might be, well, I have two things actually. One is maybe bigger than this particular conversation. When you say activate the main space, I assume you mean private or publicly and not like private events. Is that right?
So the main, the restaurants, the building is called the main building. So that's the area that we're talking about in activating that area better and more efficiently. It would be a combination of both. That area was designed so that it has the public gathering ability and programmability, place to gather and have the community use that space at the reservoir. In addition, our concept plan shows that it should be activated into some sort of a concessionaire, cafe, restaurant type space. What that looks like, we're unsure at this time. But in addition to that, the Boulder Reservoir Master Plan also indicates that we do balance events, whether that be medium, small, or large public or private events. So to answer your question, Mary, it's a balance of all of that, and how do we activate that to its fullest ability, as well as into that community effort is something that we are always looking at and always looking to improve, and how do we do that the best? Allie, did I hit everything there? Okay. Did that answer your question, Mary?
It did. I feel like with the, the issues that we've had out there, I just want to make sure that it's not just the 7 of us. I don't think any of whom live out there. I just want to make sure that the community feedback, is integrated into that decision. I'm feeling a little tonight with pickleball courts, and then thinking of the swimmers this summer, and and the res and access. There's obviously it's part of the being on the PRAB, but there are so many special interest groups, and I'm kind of sitting here trying to brainstorm how can we make the city's work even more transparent for the public. One of my thoughts, you guys do such a great job with stats that I don't know that it would be that difficult, but potentially comparing, making 5 columns from Union Reservoir, how much it costs, how many square feet, how many citizens, tax rate. I mean, things that for all of these, including the res, make a lot more transparency for the public and for us, so we don't have to wait for a meeting to see, maybe even to have it on Parks and Rec website as an ongoing annual thing, to just update those. No, maybe not annual, it might be every 5 years, as you guys do comparisons of different cities and costs and stuff.
I want to chime in on that, because Mary, I hear your comment, and I appreciate the nod for how do we take all of the information we have and make it available, transparent. We're actually doing a training next week on even just the language that we use. There's a lot of jargon in our business, right? And how do we make sure we're talking to community members in ways? What you just recommended was part of the 2018 South Shore Capital Strategy. It's a document that's online. It's a comparison of all of the open water bodies on the Front Range, how they're operated. And I think as it is germane to this conversation, the key distinction with the Boulder Reservoir and those facilities is funding. The Boulder Reservoir does not receive the South Shore, the recreation areas, right? The North Shore that's natural and open to the public and free. We operate that with tax dollars, but all of the recreation operations, and that's the biggest distinction between what we operate at the Boulder Reservoir and what you find certainly at Union, although it's changing and drastically as folks recognize increasing costs and the need to pay for services, right? But Mary, I hear your point. In 2023, one of the things you're going to hear us talk about is the business plan for the Boulder Reservoir, or the site management, if you will, right? And what are we doing to continue to implement? This team is doing such great work, but some of these are policy decisions we shouldn't be revisiting every year. And so how do we get that online? How do we get it really transparent? And so we'll continue to look at that. But what you just mentioned, as far as a comparison and benchmarking with the other bodies of water, we do have that available. You said every 5 years. I think the last one was done in 2018. Although, Stacy, I think you guys do it informally more regularly than that.
Yeah, we do.
Chuck?
Hi, I had a question about the boat storage costs. It's my understanding that these are for gravel parking spaces in the parking lot, or is this for boat racks and small craft storage?
The price that Chris quoted was for a gravel space, but we have multiple options with different pricing structures. So we have rack spaces that have one cost associated with them. And then we have our paved spaces, which have another cost associated with them.
Okay, thank you. So I have a couple of comments. We heard a lot of testimony at the beginning of the meeting about from Boulder Community Rowing and other rowing users. It was very concerning, frankly. They're talking about not being feeling not valued as partners in use of the res. They're talking about what they feel is unfair pricing for early morning access, where the fees being charged are not the actual fees for that early morning access period, but are rather the fees that are charged to other users for the rest of the day. Extremely accelerating costs for them to join the rowing club and participate in rowing. The lack of collaboration and more dictated edicts coming from staff toward them. So these are all, these are things I don't have direct experience with, so I don't know how to evaluate their comments and how to judge them and weigh them against what we hear from staff. So I guess it concerns me, and I like to hear that we're doing everything we can to accommodate and reduce costs for users from nonprofit groups who open their programs up to low-income people and youth and other groups we want to get out on the reservoir. And I'd be extremely concerned if they are going to have to close up shop because the costs are simply beyond what most of them can cover. Okay, so that's one comment. So I'll just say everything and then maybe I get feedback. I was really struck by the difference in the number of users of small craft, human-powered craft versus the power boats and the larger sailboats. It's interesting that the no-wake hours are, the split of the no-wake hours doesn't come close to matching the number of users of each of these categories of watercraft. And I feel like that there's a disconnect there in some of our goals in terms of environmental sustainability with the way we're partitioning lake time, and a disconnect with the number of users in those different groups and how we're partitioning lake time among them. I'm concerned about the aquatic nuisance species. I know we're going to be hearing more about milfoil next month, so I won't comment further on that, but that's just another red flag that we're, even with the extreme care and attention to detail that we're doing to try to remove those nuisance species on craft that are entering the reservoir, we're still not fully succeeding. And maybe milfoil of the three major nuisance species, maybe milfoil is the least concerning, but it's still a sign that contamination is an ongoing concern. And that sort of gets back to the craft that are the big risk for that, which are the larger power boats that have ballast tanks. And I guess larger sailboats might as well. Finally, in regards to the fee, the fees at entrance, I'm still concerned about runners and bikers who might be surprised or caught off guard by entering the main entrance and finding that they have to pay a fee just to run around the lake. And it's a very hefty fee just to run around the trail. And one way to mitigate this, I know a lot of people access the trails at Coot Lake, and it might be nice just to have a sign there that informs runners that if they run counterclockwise around the lake, they're going to have to pay an entrance fee. But if they run clockwise around the lake, they aren't going to have to pay an entrance fee because they're going to be entering the back doors, so to speak. So that would be informative and allow people to make a choice about which direction they're going to take the trail and then not get surprised when they get to the entrance and get hit with a hefty entrance fee. All right, I'll hang on for any feedback.
Chuck, I'd love to start and I'd love to respond to the user group comments. And I have to tell you that I'm trying to do this very carefully. And I'll just say that everything that is about to come out of my mouth is true. And the first is that for the user groups to hear that we have said, and we mean, we have no interest for these groups to not be in existence. We know that there is great camaraderie, there is great physical activity. To hear that folks don't find us collaborative really disappoints me, because I know this spring I actually was in a lot of the meetings with the user groups for 2022, and I know that we spent hours not only doing analysis and preparing options, but meeting with them and talking through them and preparing materials. And so it's frustrating to hear that wasn't effective. I understand that folks are frustrated by the fees. So what I just pulled up is some of the information we shared with them this spring. We've not yet done 2023 user group fees because we're still analyzing how the 2022 model worked. But in 2022, we shared with the user group there are specific fees for their programs, the crew dock that the crews use. That is a maintenance expense that these groups should pay for because there's not community benefit there. It's for the user groups. There are program specific specific fees for their sheds and for their moorings. And so they are paying for those fees. There are common fees that all users of the reservoir pay that we have applied to these groups. There are common fees for permits and storage. There are common fees for access. It was in 2018 or 2019, we did analysis, and while most users, either through a punch card or an annual pass or the drop-in fee, the average revenue per visit was, let's say, $4 to $5 a visit. The rowing user groups were paying 50 cents a visit. And so I can understand that the fee increases do feel significant to them. What we've been working to do carefully and slowly is to make it more fair. And we understand these increases. They have other costs. Rowing is an expensive course. There are expenses related to their watercraft, which are specialized. There are expenses related to their coaching and to their group. And so as we've added the fees to not only have fairness to other folks who use the reservoir, but to cover our costs, it has made their sport expensive, and that is challenging. You heard earlier them mention that CU chose to move their mowing during operating hours rather than outside of reservoir hours. What we are doing is if they are wanting to be on the water outside of regular business hours, they're paying for the cost of those operations because there's no other members of the community there. Our research has shown that from 5 to 6 a.m., the rowers are the only ones on the water. And so those are not regular business hours. Chuck, you have a whole bunch of other questions, but what I guess what I'll leave with is it relates to user groups that I feel like the team has been very careful, has been very fair. We are not trying to make revenue. If there is a profit this year, be clear that's not the goal for the reservoir. It's because there was significant savings as it related to some of the staffing and some of the things that did not happen, expenses that we budgeted for. And had they happened, we would have broken even, which is the goal. So just know that, Susan and Mark and other members of BCR, we will continue talking with you and doing our best to manage the Boulder Reservoir for everybody. And so with that, I think Stacy or Stephanie, hopefully you were taking notes. I know Chuck had some other questions.
Yeah, I'm actually, Stacy, do you want to talk a little bit about the shared lake last year, 2 years ago, how we developed the shared lake and the no wake scheduling of the lake and share that everyone during those times can be on the lake?
Yeah, I think that's the important comment to make, is that everybody can be on the water at any time. It's just where they can be on the water and how they can be on the water. And so when we have all watercraft on the water and we are in a wake situation where the motorboats can create a wake, these small craft need to stay in the no wake area, which is a pretty significant perimeter around the outside. And then during the no wake times, the power boats can be on the water, they just cannot create the wake. So access is there all the time for everybody. It's just what they can do on the lake and where they can go is different during those times.
I can hop on one of the others too, just regarding the ANS, because I hear you, Chuck, as far as the concerns about we're being really stringent. How did this still happen? I had the same response when I first heard about the milfoil. I do just want to note that this, more than mussels and things, can come in myriad ways. It can be someone's boots, it can be a waterfowl, it can be a dog. So we still, I believe at this point, do not know where this came from. But I guess I would just say that it does not discourage me from the importance of continuing to fight, particularly against the mussels, and on being really diligent with the crafts. I don't know if others have more they want to add to that.
I think the only thing I would add, Chris, is that, Chuck, you nailed it. We're going to come back to you in December and give you a very detailed update about the milfoil and what's happening and what our plans are moving forward. So at that time, we're happy to answer additional questions once you have that information.
Okay, and the last, I think, question was the runners and the entrance. And Stacy, correct me if I'm wrong. During flank season, the last 2 years, we did allow runners to run through, but during high season is when we asked them. So Chuck, are you wanting us to look into the possibility of not charging during high season? Or I'm I just need some clarity on your comment as far as runners.
Well, that would be my preference, but I understand that produces a very heavy burden on staff at the gates, trying to identify people that are getting dropped off outside by a car and then they walk on and don't pay their entrance fee.
Yeah.
And I know that that's very tough on staff to try to keep a handle on it. What I'm saying is that people that are accessing the lake from Coot Lake may not be aware that if they run counterclockwise around the lake, they're going to have to pay an entrance fee at the main entrance as they come around the lake. Whereas if they run clockwise, they would not have to pay that fee. And I'm just asking for an informational sign to let people know that, so that they're aware that they're going to have to carry some money in their running shorts if they run counterclockwise.
Yeah, I can speak for the time that I have been in the gatehouse, listening to the cashiers. They do inform them of that. I've heard them, inform them where to park, as well as where to possibly go the other direction. So there is some communication at the gate. I'm struggling a little bit with a sign because the more signage we put out there, I think that it opens up the if I can run, then I can bike, and then I can also bring my little craft down there and get on the water. So I cringe a little bit about people circumventing the fee access area, as well as the possible ANS risk that would pose people coming in through that area just because they now know that they don't have to pay.
I'll add that the ideal state that we share is documented in the South Shore Capital Strategy. What we want is a trail that circumnavigates the reservoir, right? For bikers, for runners. If you go to Strava, it is one of the most popular routes in Boulder. We know that, right? And it's why, Chuck, I appreciate you understand the issue. It's really then hard to manage, what is a user fee supported site. So ideally, we'd have this trail, you'd have clear gating and access to the recreation area, but it's so hard because it's such a porous site. It makes it really hard on our team. It's not ideal, just to make sure we're all on the same page, that it's an in-between state that is problematic.
All right, I think we answered your questions. Chuck, do you have anything? Okay. I don't see any other hands. Am I missing anyone?
I didn't have a complaint. I actually concern. I just wanted to say thank you, because I thought that this is our third time hearing this. And I just wanted to tell you, Chris and Stephanie, you did a great job in that analysis. And I appreciate you looking at doing a new pass for 2023, that single pass, because that's what we asked for, for you to look at. And that's what the patrons wanted. So I just wanted to say thank you for doing that.
Could you put the questions back up, please, so we can peruse one more time? Thanks.
Yes, one moment.
Just one more quick question. Do we offer discounted passes for entrance or annual passes, either daily entrance or annual passes for low-income people?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
That would be yes, Chuck, we do.
But just to be, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say our Requity Pass, which is the pass you actually in your consent agenda, we talked about funding for 2023, that provides 100% free access for anyone who qualifies. And as a reminder, in the pandemic, we expanded what qualification looks like. So if you are on unemployment, if you are working with one of our nonprofit partners, you get 100% free access to all of our recreation facilities, which includes the Boulder Reservoir.
Great, thank you.
All right, so Chris put those questions back up for us. So just as a reminder, we're asking for if you support the proposed operational updates of the 5 topics discussed this evening. And they're listed there. And then our final question is if there's any other questions or additional feedback that on the proposed reservoir operations that you would like us to look at and review between now and next month.
Chuck, can I ask you a question? I got myself confused by the conversation. Are you in agreement with these 5 based on what your concerns are?
Yes. My concerns are about other aspects of reservoir operations, not these 5 topics.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
I guess if you happen to know, Stacy or, oh, your picture's not showing. I can't remember.
Stephanie, Chris.
Stephanie, yes, sorry.
That's okay.
Are there reservoirs the size of ours anywhere, you know, that could be not too uncommon, that just do not allow class 5 boats since it is so small?
There are absolutely reservoirs. I'm going to let Stacy answer that question.
Mary, there are a number of reservoirs that only allow small craft that are in our proximity, but also there are some conversations happening across the country about what we consider to be class 5 boats. So that is our classification at the Boulder Reservoir. That is not a statewide classification or a national classification. It was just a way for us to kind of look at the boats and figure out how the risk kind of laid out with the boats. But with those larger wakeboard / ballast tank boats, there's some conversation and some research happening about those boats and the impacts that they have.
And I guess, yeah, not to be overly provocative, but I really appreciated what Chuck said about that, our environmental awareness and, you know, the edge that we'd like to create. Just that, I mean, I enjoyed boating growing up, but that's a pretty small reservoir from the reservoirs I've been to all around the country and beyond. And, you know, I'm just going to throw out, hopefully class 5 boat owners don't come back and harpoon me, but you know, that at some point, ecologically, this is a really outdoorsy community. And, you know, what do you call it? Skiing, water skiing is really fun when you have to make those super tight curves in a small reservoir. To me, not as fun, but that's just me. At some point, I'm just gonna throw out there that in the next, whatever, 10 years or less, that we have a really robust, and as we used to call it in my old job, a courageous conversation about class 5 boats at all on such a small reservoir with all of the constraints on a lot of levels that we have. So I just wanted to say that for the record. Thank you. Nothing against boat owners, by the way.
I'll add, so Mary, one of the things that governs Boulder Reservoir policy is the 2012 Boulder Reservoir Master Plan. At that point, there was a courageous out loud conversation about power boats. And at that time, City Council and the PRAB discussed several options. And the option that was determined at that point was 1, a careful mix of boating types, and 2, adaptive management practices. And so that the team, as you saw with this class 5 and no new permits, right, we have continually managed. But Stacy, I don't want to make up numbers. In 2012, how many class 5 boats were there? I think like 200, right?
I think it was like 144 or something like that. Yeah.
And so over time, as we've restricted access, right? You can't take your boat and go around to other places and come back to the res. You can't get a new boat. We are seeing a natural attrition to the class 5 boats. And that is a conversation that we intend to keep having. I'm not predisposing an outcome, but we agree with you based on the research, based on continued trends. Part of adaptive management is continuing to ask the question, what's the right mix of boating at the Boulder Reservoir?
And then I'll just add that if there's no new permits, if I'm new to Boulder or new boat and I can't get a permit, like how fair is that the 70 whatever 5 people who have it have them indefinitely? You know, how do you manage that? But I know you guys know that already. So thanks.
Great. So I know this isn't a vote, right? Is it just discussion and bond? Oh, there. Thank you very much.
To get your wonderful insights, but yeah, then we do have next steps. But Allie,
can we slow down it? I wonder if we could go back a slide, but following on your comment, Chuck, I wanted to make sure, did we get and all the other, I heard you respond to the 5. We see a general straw poll that those make sense. Were there any other questions or comments that we should take in at this point? I see head nodding, Sunny. Thank you. Watching the faces. Okay, just want to make sure, because this is your chance. What ended up happening, right? We take the input and the team will talk about next steps, but this really is helpful for us because what I appreciate this team has done, because it's modeled it for the other areas of the department, is we're going to develop our 2023 operation plan. And then next summer, we're in go mode, right? There's not time for creating new plans and entertaining new ideas, right? And so this is our chance to say, okay, what does 2023 look like? And with that, you can go into your next steps team. Thank you for making space to make sure we heard everything.
Steph,
Okay,
wanna throw this out there?
absolutely. Yeah, sorry, I was having a hard time unmuting myself. So yes, our next steps are we will be providing that final overview summary of the 2023 reservoir operations in the PRAB matters from the department next month in December. And you will also see the ANS program summary report also in that memo next month. I'm not sure if you were aware, but we are back to running our continuing of our open to the public waterside chats. We've already had one last month I'm sorry, it's November still, isn't it? This month, November. And then our next one will be in January and then in February before we start our high season operations. Those are at the reservoir at 5:30 p.m. and again, open to anyone that wants to attend. So lots of different voices and thoughts and ideas are discussed during those times. And then finally, the reservoir staff will begin operating planning for implementing any operation adjustments in January of 2023. With that, there's one more slide. Thank you. Oh, he's not going to show it, but it's a great big thank you for your time tonight. And of course, the staff effort. It's a heavy load for Chris and Stacy and myself, but there are also lots of other members on this team that helped us along to produce this wonderful report out. So thank you all for sitting through that. And thank you for hanging with us tonight.
Thank you.
Great job. Thanks.
Yeah, excellent. Great. With that, we'll move on to matters from the department. And Allie, you wanted to talk about the December meeting?
Yeah, and in fact, I do want to tell you December 12th, I actually have an update in the fact that unfortunately there was a water main break at the Brenton building, which is one of the locations. So to say out loud, the city has now several rooms that are prepared, ready to go with tech and everything to facilitate really well done hybrid board meetings with the goal for all of the groups to be hybrid by the end of the year. Because our meeting moved up 2 weeks because of the holidays, there's several other board meetings that night. That coupled with the flood means we don't have a good room for December 12th. So hopefully you all will support one more virtual meeting, and then January we will be ready to go full steam ahead with your normal meeting date. We have a room reserved. Rosa has that all booked out for 2023. I can't remember if it's at Brenton or Tate, but we have a beautiful, lovely room. You will be hybrid. We're going to ask you to wait one more month.
Well, I appreciate that. Is that it? Do you
Questions, comments, concerns?
You look very concerned about it.
I'm concerned because I'm so bummed. It was so lovely being with you all in person. And I know it's nice being in our basements and being able to go upstairs to our families right afterwards, but there's something to be said for in-person collaboration. I'm eager for it to happen, having a moment to connect before the meeting, right? So I feel so sad that I'm asking you to wait a month, but we just simply don't have an easy space to make it happen in December. Chuck, you have a hand up.
Yeah, are the hybrid meetings going to be hybrid from a public participation point of view, or hybrid for the members of the PRAB as well?
That's a really good question. I'm going to talk about 3 levels. For public participation, absolutely hybrid. One of the barriers that's been broken down from the pandemic, right? I'm a working mom with 2 kids. I can show up for public comment from my basement and get back upstairs to Hamburger Helper, right? And the kids and whatever is going on upstairs. So from a public participation level, absolutely hybrid. I'm going to need to double check on boards. I do believe board members can attend hybrid, and the PRAB should consider a conversation about if you have preference. And Elliot, you had made a a comment at the retreat that it might be time to update your handbook. Your meeting rules and information from the charter about whether you're in person or hybrid is something to consider. I'll get back to you with the answer on that. And from a staff perspective, my direction will be folks who are presenting should almost always be in person, but sometimes we have subject matter experts who are just here if we need them, or folks might have things going on. Staff will be a mix of in-person and virtual.
Okay, I asked because January, February, and March, I will be in Fairbanks, Alaska. So for me, it'll be hybrid or nothing.
Yep. So Chuck, I'll follow up. And Rosa, I don't know if you remember from all of our conversations with the clerk's office. I remember the conversation about updating the charter language to make sure it's clear. And I'm sorry, the details are escaping me at the moment.
I don't know either, Allie, but we can find out tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, Chuck, we'll get back to you. I believe hybrid is allowed, and we'll send, how about this? We'll send the board an overview of board attendance, and then perhaps we consider a matter from the board at your December meeting about if you want to set meeting norms about attendance, how many meetings, hybrid, virtual, present, and it could be something you consider updating in your handbook and your meeting rules. Thumbs up?
Sounds good.
Thank you. Okay.
Great. Then we'll move on to the Pleasant View Field Access Parking and Improvement Feasibility Study.
Yeah, for this item, I'm going to introduce our senior landscape architect, Doug Godfrey. And I'm going to take a minute just to appreciate Doug for 11 years of service to the City of Boulder's Parks and Recreation Department. Those who were in early in the meeting heard that he will be joining his wife and daughters in England later this week. And I know he's excited to be back in a home with furniture and to be with his family and to begin this new adventure. He has left his mark across our community and the parks that he has helped to redevelop. He was our lead project manager for Scott Carpenter Pool, the Boulder Reservoir main building. What a way to leave your mark on a community, right? He's left his mark on our organization as well. He's an incredibly bright teammate who has made conversations better. He's made days more fun. He's pretty witty. And he can, he's a mean Hercules Mulligan. So Doug, thank you so much for your service. Your last item, we're going to talk about the Pleasant View access. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Allison, for those nice words. I really appreciate it. And it's been a heck of a run. And I've told people many times that the work that I've done here with Boulder Parks and Rec has been some of the most profound work that I've done. And I, like Allison said, I've been doing this for 11 years with the department, and I had 10 years on the private side prior to coming here. So it's been really meaningful work for me and has changed kind of how I move throughout the profession quite profoundly. So thanks to you, Allison, for the space to do that, as well as everyone that came before you and all of my supervisors too. So yeah, thank you. And so yes, I am here tonight to give an update on the Pleasant View access improvements feasibility study, parking access and feasibility study. And I'm going to try and share my screen here. I do have a quick presentation. I know we're getting towards the end of the meeting here, so I'll try and make this as clean or as quick and concise as possible. But yes, we started this project several months ago, and we're at a point now where the consultant Fox Tuttle Transportation Group has completed their existing conditions analysis out at Pleasant View. And so we just wanted to give you an update and a little bit of background, and then take any questions that you might have. Can you all see my screen? Okay. Okay, great. So again, the purpose of this feasibility study is to identify recommendations for physical site improvements and access management strategies to address parking issues, multimodal transportation, and safety concerns. It looks to develop a process and time frame for next steps and implementation strategies, and provide high-level cost estimating for potential site improvements. I'll highlight that this is a feasibility study, and what that means is we hope that there's some really good, we hope that there are really good recommendations and strategies that come out of this. What I just want to make sure that everyone knows is that there will be next steps to this. There might be some things that come out of this that do have some immediate action items that we can take advantage of. But I think a lot of what's going to come out of this is kind of what those next steps need to be. How do we engage with the public? How do we actually move through the process of permitting some of these site improvements recommendations that come out of this study? So it is kind of a springboard into what I think and hope will be a much more robust process after this. So a little bit, I know you know a lot about the background of the facility, but Pleasant View is classified as a premier athletic field for the department. It hosts a wide range of activities and events over the course of 3 seasons. So, we have everything from kid and adult league games at Pleasant View to a lot of different tournaments like rugby, soccer, and ultimate frisbee tournaments out there. The current design is based off of a 1993 preliminary plan. That plan had 8 full-size soccer fields, a rugby field, and then a couple warm-up facilities, warm-up fields kind of interspersed through the plan as well. In 2017, that field layout was adjusted to accommodate more youth soccer play, and this resulted in 3 additional fields at the facility. In 1993, for that 1993 plan, the totals for the total number of parking spaces out there based on that plan was 531. And I'll just note that that was a mistake. I had 479 in the PRAB memo. It's actually 531. There was a row of parking along the west border that I did not count and caught as I was putting the presentation together. So there were actually 531 spaces that were called for in that 1993 plan. The current parking totals are actually 416 spaces. And so if you kind of figure out where the spaces did not happen, there were these 78 stalls up here at the far northwest corner. Again, those parking stalls along the western edge, and then there were some stalls along the south side along Kalmia that did not go in as well. I do not know specifically why those stalls didn't go in. I have an idea that the ones along the western edge of the facility did not go in because of how the neighborhood to the west developed. That's where the multi-use path is now, and that multi-use path abuts right up against those housing units along that western edge there. So that is, some of the reason, or one of the reasons why those parking stalls do not happen there. So a big, the consultant did, the point where they're at right now is they've completed a draft of the existing conditions part of the larger plan. The team, the existing conditions looks at the actual site conditions out there, the historic and current programmed events, facility usage, previous plans and documents, land uses, zoning, multimodal transportation access, user feedback, and on-site data gathering. The on-site data gathering was a big component of putting this existing conditions part of the report together. That on-site observation included looking at parking utilization, off-site parking use, bicycle and pedestrian site access and circulation. The consultant team was out there for 2 days. They were out on October 15th and October 16th. On October 15th, it was the fields were, again, that was a Saturday, and they were used and reserved by BCU, Boulder County United. And on Sunday, the 16th, there were reservations out there for BCU and some adult league play as well. So, and you can see the results of that on-site data gathering and observations their full report or their draft report is in as an attachment to the PRAB memo. This is not all of the preliminary findings and takeaways that you'll find in that report, but I pulled out some of the ones that I thought were a little more relevant, but again, they're all important, but these are the ones that stood out to me. First one being there is adequate parking and reasonable access to the fields during weekday activities. Challenges with parking supply and reasonable access generally occur on the weekends and primarily on Saturdays. I'd say that the one caveat to this is when the facility has tournaments. I think when we have tournaments out there, you're clearly going to get a lot of activity on both the Saturday and Sunday, and if there's anything that happens on a Friday as well. But like I said, they were out there for some games some youth games on Saturday when they saw the heaviest usage on the 15th. And I do think also, it could be a point of conversation for the PRAB and among staff is if we would see merit in having the consultant go back out and do some data gathering when there actually is a tournament going on for both weekend days, both Saturday and Sunday. And when you look through the report, I think it's this existing conditions. I think it's pretty clear that on days like Saturdays, there's parking parking within the existing lot is very difficult, and there is some spillover into some adjacent properties and along Calmia. So I think that problem is clearly only going to be exacerbated when there are larger tournaments going on both Saturday and Sunday. Again, one of the reasons Sunday my understanding is that some of the vendors do contract with Cavalry, and so on Sundays when Cavalry has service, those spaces are not open. So obviously, again, there's going to be more of a parking issue out there on Sundays. Let's see. So on busier weekend days, the current parking supply in the parking lot is inadequate for the number of motor vehicles arriving. In general, there's good bicycle and pedestrian facilities allowing for access to Pleasant View, though limiting access to the east entrance causes confusion and conflict. So you have the bikes coming from the other trail systems, and there are those conflicts that can happen right at that entry gate on the east side. The primary facility missing for complete bicycle and pedestrian access to the fields are bicycle facilities along Calmia. As we've noted, the bike lanes do end a little bit farther to the west on Calmia at Island. While some of the event-related parking was found in adjacent neighborhoods, the amount was small, with most occurring in areas closest to the fields. And I'll just go back to what I said a little bit ago, that I think that on tournament days where there are likely going to be larger number of people out there, that we might see more of an impact to those adjacent neighborhoods than we would similar to what we saw on the 15th when they were out there doing those counts. And when they were out there, they did see illegal parking along Calmia and in the adjacent businesses. So that's a really quick overview. I think a lot of the information is in that existing conditions report, and there's a lot of it in there. So I didn't want to spend too much time going over that, since this is just an update. But I did want to hear from the PRAB on your thoughts, if there's any glaring issues you saw with the existing conditions report, if you had any questions. But beyond that, our next, and I'll take those in a second, but beyond that, our next steps are they're going to take the comments from the PRAB as well as staff and finalize this existing conditions through November and December. In December and January, they will be preparing a draft feasibility study, and then we'll be coming back to the PRAB as a discussion information item in February. And then we hope to have the plan finalized by March. again, if we do think that there's merit in having some additional on-site data gathering done, perhaps over a tournament, we'll need to work with our athletics folks and the consultant to see when the best time for that would be and how they could use that information to change or inform the final plan. So thank you. And yeah, if there are any questions, I'll go ahead and try and field those now.
Doug, who will be taking over for you after you're gone?
We have a new senior landscape architect. Her name is Darren Wagner. Darren actually used to work for the city's open space and mountain parks group. So she's very familiar with the city, and one of the individuals who, on the consultant team with Fox Tuttle, his name is Bill Cowan. And Bill used to work for the city's transportation department. He's again now with Fox Tuttle, so he's very familiar with this site and a lot of things going on in adjacent areas around the site. So he's going to be a tremendous asset to work with. And both he and Darren have worked together on, I believe it was the access plan for Chautauqua. So this particular project will fit in well with Darren and Bill.
Okay, thank you. Were there any questions from the PRAB?
I have one.
Okay, I see Elliot and then Mary.
Thanks. Just quickly, how do we categorize the parking at the church? Is that, it's not illegal, but is it unsanctioned? Is it adjacent? How is that kind of categorized?
I mean, I think it could be considered illegal in that, someone could be ticketed for parking in that spot or towed. That being said, and my understanding is that some vendors do have a contract with Cavalry to park there on Saturdays for some events. So in that regard, it's not illegal, but if they are in there on Sunday or some time where a contract is not in place, then they could likely be towed. And then it is all, if you are looking along Calmia, this Calmia is actually signed for no parking, so that is illegal parking there.
And just so I'm clear, because I'm not as familiar with what a feasibility study is, nuts and bolts, are we looking at solutions to the various problems that you've highlighted in your presentation, or is it some other, what's this study going to show us and what are we going to comment on?
Yeah, it's a good question. They're going to provide recommendations for, best recommendations based on the information that comes out in the existing conditions they're going to use that to provide recommendations and strategies that we can further look into, if that makes sense. Because just as an example, what we don't want to do right now is say, well, let's start charging to park in the parking lot, or let's go just put parking out on Calmia. There's steps that need to happen after that. We want to be able to talk with the user groups or the contractors and vendors to understand what impact that would have on their service. And so that's just not something that was covered in this particular report. So we want to make sure that we understand what that next step needs to be. But this is going to give us a much better idea of, what has the potential to be most successful out there.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Mary, then Chuck.
Doug, I'm just wondering, when you are working on an issue regarding parking or cars or movement of people around the city of any kind, do you work at all with people from the transportation board or their city support staff?
On this team, we do have one, if not two members from the transportation group kind of helping out and providing their thoughts and comments. David Thompson is one who has been looking at this as well. He's a little hard to wrangle with his workload, but he's definitely someone that we have engaged with. And again, I will say, having Bill Cowan on, Bill was with the city for many, many years, and so he's a tremendous asset to have as part of this team. He's very familiar with all of the city's processes and existing plans that are out there. So, yeah.
Thank you.
So first of all, I wanted to thank you for a great presentation. And Doug, I'm sorry we won't get to see more of you in the future, and really enjoyed the presentation you gave.
Oh, thank you.
Sure. Fox Tuttle does a really good job. So congratulations on selecting them to do this analysis and the feasibility study. So good choice there. I want to point out that one of the ways their phrasing is very careful, right? In the slide you have up, they say current parking supply in the parking lot is inadequate for the number of motor vehicles arriving. And they don't say there are not enough parking spaces. The two different kinds of things. Because one could reduce the number of motor vehicles arriving and get rid of the problem as well. So I think they're good in that respect, that they don't have a purely auto-centric viewpoint, which you might get from some transportation consultants. I want to sort of play devil's advocate for a moment and ask, what is the benefit to the city and its citizens of having large regional tournaments that attract teams from all over the state and maybe from other states to come and play in Boulder? What do we get out of it? Why should we host these large tournaments at possibly considerable cost? Since they're the only things that are causing the mismatch between parking supply and number of arriving vehicles.
Allison, I might use you for a little bit on this one.
I will. I mean, I will in that because it's not a land, it's not a planning question. It's an economic vitality question. While it's not heavy in our strategy, there are some communities who rely on regional, national tournaments exclusively as a funding source for maintenance, for filling hotel nights. Boulder is a tourism heavy town. We actually say no to tournaments more often than we take them. For example, there was recently a large national tournament taking place in August, and we said we don't have the hotel nights, right? In August, we are very heavy with just summer tourism, move in with the university. But for regional tournaments, there are, we should prepare an overview of what age levels they serve, right? But I could tell you, having middle school children, if we're not playing in Boulder on a weekend, we're driving somewhere, because as children go older, that the competition in the community doesn't exist anymore, and you do play in regional. And so if you're never hosting, then you're always driving, and you're never getting the benefits of hosting, which is that people do buy meals. There may be hotel nights if it's a larger tournament. So there is some economic benefit, but you kind of nudged on the key point there, Chuck, in that it needs to pay for itself. Right. There is some economic benefit, and how we do it. We often work with the Convention and Visitors Bureau to analyze what's the economic impact of this event. And so I'll make up the numbers. I believe a CU home game has a significant $1 million+ impact every weekend. There's a home game for CU. The Boulder similar. They can estimate that based on how many people are coming, for how long they're coming. Ironman similar, right? We know when folks come, they come for 4 to 5 nights. They spend thousands of dollars, and there's economic benefit there, especially because maintenance on our facilities is funded by sales tax. So there are reasons, and they should pay for themselves. The other thing I want to add a caveat, and I say this, some of this, I'm trying to remember the details of the report. It is not just the tournaments where parking at Pleasant View is an issue. We're there in the spring and the fall, my family, 2 to 3 days a week, and just at dinner Sunday evening, it was a conversation about how hard it is, the flow. And so it's not just about vehicles, even bicycles. My family most often comes in from the west, either biking, walking, and the access is an issue, even just on the regular Saturday league play.
Yeah, definitely. And I hope I didn't come across as that it was only during tournaments when there was a parking issue, because what this existing conditions report showed was that on that Saturday, when the fields were used for league play, there was definitely spillover into the adjacent neighborhood. So it's absolutely a problem on just regular league play, not even tournaments. Tournaments would definitely be an issue.
Right. I guess as we move forward in evaluating this problem and come up with solutions, I want to make sure the burden falls on the groups that are, or the events that are leading to the problem, and doesn't fall on groups like GRU, Grassroots Ultimate, who, occupy 4 or 5 fields during the weekday. And if the overall cost of the facility go up because we have to increase because of increased infrastructure costs, I want to make sure that they're not spread evenly across all users of the facility, but they are focused on the users that are causing the increased infrastructure costs and not on everyone else. Anyway, that's, we're just talking about the existing conditions. I just want to sort of prime the pump a little bit for future discussions.
Great,
I
thank you.
agree with you, Chuck. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Doug.
All right, thank you all.
All right, Allie, the fiscal 2023 operating budget, who's gonna?
Yeah, this is your last update about the planning of the 2023 budget. And I think Jackson just has a very quick update that's written here. Jackson Hyde, our Business Services Manager.
Thanks, Allie. Doug, I'm gonna stop sharing your screen. Okay, thank you everyone for your patience. It's been a while since I've been on Zoom. I wanted to give you sorry, let me put this in present mode. Am I sharing the wrong screen now?
It says 2023 budget.
Okay, perfect. We'll just run with this.
Yeah, it's brief. You're fine, Jackson.
Okay. So as you all know, we started the 2023 budget development process back in February of this year. The PRAB had several different opportunities to weigh in on the budget from February through June. Starting in June, it went to different department-wide review committees, the executive budget team, the financial strategy committee from City Council, and then it progressed through City Council. As of the end of October, we do have an adopted and approved 2023 budget. This is just to show you the high-level overview. The department does have 5 funds, and the 23 approved budget is 35.9 million. You will see this as a fairly significant increase from the 2020 and 21 actuals as we are continuing to recover out of the pandemic. We are still spending significantly less than 2019, but as you recall, 2019, we had 2 major capital projects that did cause our funds to increase substantially. Looking at our budget more by the categories and types of how we are spending, the light blue on the bottom is our operating personnel. That is paying the salaries for all of our staff that provide the wonderful services. The green is our operating budget that we spend for the materials, supplies, and services. And then the yellow is our dedicated BPR capital funds, whereas the mustard color is additional funding that's provided through one-time capital funds that aren't recurring sources of funding. In the black numbers, you will see what the combined operating budget is, and that's really focused on our people and things that we're buying on a yearly basis and isn't specifically focused on the capital budget that varies rather substantially every year. So you can see that our biggest increase in 23 is focused on restoring, continuing to restore people and positions, as well as just the general increased cost of labor for providing the services. Within the green line, you will see that we have accounted for increased cost escalation for the various supplies and materials that we do purchase, which was very fortunate for us to do given how early we developed the budget. So all of these are pretty charts. Unfortunately, we don't have as many pictures for the budget, but the 4 key areas where community members, residents will see budget enhancements are focused on the Ranger Pilot Program, the personnel that I already mentioned, taking care of what we have, and then inflationary expenses. Within the Ranger Pilot Program, City Council did approve continued funding for the pilot through next December. And with that, we now have 1 working supervisor, and as of 2 weeks from now, we will have 2 rangers filled that are working year-round, in addition to 1 temporary staff member that works over the peak summer season. In terms of personnel, we are continuing 2 FTE that were funded through ARPA. These are tied to the sports, health and wellness, and East Boulder Community Center work groups. And then we are implementing a few new positions. We have a programs and partnerships manager that will focus on leveraging funding and finding better opportunities for grants, philanthropy, and donations. That will be a new position coming in 23. Additionally, with the increased use and maintenance of the system, there will be a new landscaping and irrigation technician for the civic area, which encompasses the entire central zone, which is Pearl Street Mall, downtown campus, and a few pocket parks within the central zone. As you heard earlier, the reservoir is continuing to see increased usage, and with that, there is a year-round boat inspector that will be included in the budget. This is really intended to provide consistency and that year-round support, since people are entering the reservoir throughout the entire season and not just the peak season. And then finally, there will be a water safety coordinator for the aquatics work group to help restore swim lessons that have been impacted over the course of the pandemic. As far as taking care of what we have, we did include $900,000 in the budget to really focus on the R&R and the maintenance of some different asset types that are incredibly valuable across the system. Ali mentioned earlier that we are investing over $200,000 into courts maintenance, but we're also investing into our fields, irrigation, and then access and mobility, which includes a variety of parking lot improvements, bike infrastructure, sidewalks, and different ways to move people around the system. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we are accounting for inflationary expenses. So while the budget is growing, our purchasing power has decreased significantly over the course of the last few years. So we will see some increased costs that don't necessarily account for increased services. And with that, all of this funding goes into effect on January 1st. And I just want to thank everyone in the department who was involved in the budget development process, as well as the PRAB for your advisory role throughout the entire process. I didn't have any questions for you tonight, but happy to answer them if there's anything you'd like answered.
I think you should celebrate.
Yes.
That's a big deal, Jackson. And you 4 slides. I'm very impressed with you right now.
Yeah, thanks, Jackson.
I know, I appreciate
Probably
it.
the shortest budget presentation you'll ever get. So
Good job. Any questions for Jackson or Ali? All right. Well, you can enter your December like whew, with a weight off of you a little bit. All right, the next thing we'll move on is matter from the board. The new procedures, a video to Zoom. Is that you, Rosa?
Yes, that was me. I threw that on there just as an FYI that going forward, all of these Zoom webinars or Zoom meetings will be uploaded onto the city's YouTube page, the playlist, within 4 business days. So if you happen to miss the meeting and want to tune in to what transpired, wait about 4 business days and go to our YouTube webpage and you'll see the meeting recording there.
I want to double
Any
click on that
questions?
as a process improvement. That's never before been available. We have meeting recordings. If you just want to listen to board meetings, of course, there's the minutes, but you know, speaking of transparency and making information available to the community, I think having these meetings available in the Zoom recording is a really great process improvement.
Great, thank you. And then if you, Ali, are you wanting to talk about the application or the PRAB recruitment?
I can do that. This is an item the clerk's office every year solicits input from existing board members as they begin to recruit. So in January, they'll begin the recruitment process for new board and commission members. This board will have 2 seats to fill. And so we would like your input on the questions for that application. With Chuck and Pam's approval, we took an initial go at some improvements based upon where we are in our planning process with our strategic planning. And if you have input for us, we'll hand it off to the clerk's office. I believe they needed it in the next week or so. So we don't have a lot of time for heavy wordsmithing and group think, but I guess hopefully I trust this group to be effective and thoughtful. I would ask you to consider just we've talked about welcoming and inclusive. And so making sure that the process, Sunny, you just went through it. And so having input on the application would be really valuable.
Great. They can email you.
Folk could email us, but I think we have some space if you want to have a conversation about it right now. That would be great.
It looks like Elliot has a question though.
Hey, Elliot.
Yeah, just two quick thoughts. One is, I think that it would be helpful to add a question that asks applicants what their unique experience or perspective is that they're going to bring to the board. Maybe that's embodied in some of the questions, but we ask, why do you want to join this board? And then we get into, what legacy do you want to leave, which I have a comment about. And then we get into, more specific questions about how can we possibly spend money to fit out all needs, and how would you deal with that? So I think it would be helpful just to kind of give people a softball, like what kind of, unique perspective or experience would you bring to this board, given its mission and the scope of its work? Just to give people a chance to talk about that. And it may yield some interesting answers. The second thing is this isn't as much about the content of that question, but I was a little confused about the fact that and I don't have for some reason, my Adobe PDF froze, so I'm not looking at the question, but from memory, I recall that the first question is, why do you want to join this board? And then in the same line, it starts a question about legacy. Like, what do you want to accomplish, or have accomplished in 5 years? I think that should be either separated or it should be deleted. I think it's a different question than why do you want to join the board? The legacy question, I feel like for someone applying, it's a little bit abstract. I think it would be better just to ask people, what do you hope to accomplish on this board? I mean, that's a lot more tangible for somebody who's never served on this board. But that's just my suggestion. Then that's all from me. And Allie, it took a lot of patience and for me to restrict my comments and wordsmithing to what was a minute. So
I mean, if the board wants to assign Elliot to write your questions, I just heard him volunteer, I think. Can I ask a question on that? I'm reflecting on the conversation you all just had at your retreat about the role of the PRAB. And I wonder if the question about what you hope to see your legacy on the time of the board, if that's confusing, right? Like about, I don't know, I guess I'd love the board's input on Elliot's suggestion to just strike that. Maybe the first question is, why do you want to be on the board and what unique perspective experiences would you bring to the work?
I'd like to say something real quick. I think we should strike it too, because it leads, like when I was 5 years ago, looking back at it, I was eager and thinking, okay, legacy, we're going to make a difference, right? As an individual, but you don't. I mean, we do, of course we do in the world, but we're a board, we're a collective body. We don't individually leave a legacy. We leave a legacy as our group. So I think the question is inappropriate in my opinion, but Chuck.
I agree.
Yeah, and I agree too. I like the idea of having why you want to be on this board, what unique perspectives and inputs can you bring, or something to that effect. That would be perfectly sufficient.
I agree with that as well. I feel like the legacy is a little misleading for the reasons Mary said. It gives you the impression that you can have, really like a passion project or an idea that you can push through. And it's really more about, just commenting on, making sure that the direction that you're headed is a good direction rather than changing the direction so much. Like it feels, having a legacy doesn't feel like the right term.
So
disappointing.
Yeah, so I would like for someone to be assigned to rework these questions and send them to our PRAB email. So what we have here is the list of 4 questions that we were given to wordsmith, but it sounds like you also have additional questions to add to this. So Elliot, if you would like to send us a new document, that would be great.
I'm more than happy to do that, but I don't want to speak on behalf of the board. I'm happy to like capture what I believe people have suggested tonight and send it on, but
I think anything more than 4 is too much. I mean, you've got, I remember it being like, you know, and then during the headlights and, you know, so.
yeah. Well, if you guys want to delegate that to me, I'm happy to do it.
I vote for you.
Thank you, Mary. Unanimous. Okay. When do you want that, Rosa?
So it's due December 2nd.
Oh, okay.
So December 2nd in the morning, maybe?
Yeah, I'll do that in the next 48 hours. I'm not going to sit on it. Could you send me an email to remind me though?
Yes.
Thanks.
Great, thanks, Elliot. Any more on that topic? Okay, we'll move on to Prab Matters. And there wasn't really much for us to sign up for, you know, based on the calendar that Ally went for the next couple of months. So does anybody want to just talk about what they've done since the last time we saw it, or we can?
And didn't we say also, Pamela, and everybody at our meeting, that it's also a time to just not, of course, chit chat, but not just say what we've done, but also things and ideas that have come up, you know, between meetings and such. I guess Ally Rhodes, the one thing was I'd love if, as you're reading the calendar, I mean, I know we have our next meeting on December 12th, I think, but to name all of the events up until the next meeting. Because like it was top heavy on things before, you know, Christmas, and then nothing too much. Remember when you did the calendar, the very opening fun thing that we decided to have you post it and read it? And maybe there aren't anything, because if we have December 12th, then I guess it'll be the end of January. There'll be like 7 weeks where a ton of things will probably happen that we didn't hear about.
So what I think you're asking is that for the December meeting, the upcoming events be as robust as we can make it. We've talked about that as a team, and I think you'll keep seeing them think, oh yeah, that's a thing that Prab would want to know about. We'll keep trying adding more and more to that.
Great, thanks.
Chuck? Oh, I'm sorry, Chuck, then Elliot.
I met with a member of the Military Officers Association of America, who has a Boulder chapter with about 100 members, and these are retired veterans, largely, mostly in their late 70s and 80s, I'd say, pretty old group of guys. And they are interested in developing a interpretive display at Bill Bower Park. Bill Bower Park is on Table Mesa and Yale, so it's west of Broadway, sort of up the hill from the King Soopers on Table Mesa. And it's a small park that was developed in 2014 as a neighborhood park, and it's named after Bill Bower, who was one of the famous Doolittle Raiders of World War II. These were airmen who launched their Air Force airplanes off of a aircraft carrier in the first year of the war, and did a bombing run on Japan at a time when the U.S. was very much getting pummeled by the Japanese. And so it was a real morale booster for the U.S. And they launched off this aircraft carrier knowing they couldn't come back and land on the aircraft carrier. And so they had to proceed over China, where they bailed out of their aircraft, and about a third of them died. And so it's in part a suicide mission and to some extent. And Bill Bower did not, and he survived and became an Air Force colonel and ended up moving to Boulder and retiring there and becoming a neighborhood fixture. And when the park was created, it was named in his honor. He had passed away about 3 years before the park was created. But this group of veterans has been trying since June, I guess, to get approval for a interpretive display that has a plaque similar to the one at Scott Carpenter Park that describes Bill Bower and why the park is named after him, and includes some landscaping elements. And they're willing to raise the money for this through their veterans groups. and various fundraisers, and they feel like they have neighborhood support, but they feel like they're not making much progress in getting approval, and they would like to find a way to get the approval as quickly as possible. And I think part of this is motivated by the fact that they're quite elderly, and many of them don't have a lot of time left, and they want to see this honor done to their fellow veteran. So I guess I'd like to see if it's possible, I know it's very short notice, but to have a short information item to discuss if there are any issues with this or what could be done to allow this to move forward, or if it won't move forward and for whatever reason. Just a quick update on the status of this request.
You're on mute, Allie.
Isn't that great? Mark Davison, I mentioned, is out of the office through Wednesday. I will ask him about this. I mean, unless the rest of the board is interested, I can just get you an email on Friday with what I know, with what the planning team has told them. Sometimes, again, our pace just doesn't align with folks because of our resources. I don't know the details here. I'll get them and I'll report back to you. And so if the rest of the board is curious, we can include a consent agenda item update in December, or Chuck, I can just shoot you an email.
I'm curious.
I'm curious. Elliot, your hand's up.
Yeah, just wanted to send a quick shout out to our amazing department. I've been traveling a lot the last year across the country, visiting family and whatnot. And I'm always struck by how great our park system is compared to municipalities across the country, even in affluent communities. I think we should be very proud of that. I know we nitpick and try and, squeeze as much juice out of the lemon as we can. But I don't want to lose sight of the fact that we have a real world-class park system here, and it's due in no short measure to the amazing staff that are at the department. And so just wanted to say that was something that struck me over the holidays, and something that I was frankly thankful for over the Thanksgiving holiday.
Great.
Can I say thanks on behalf of our team? One of the things I'm incredibly grateful to be a part of this team. It is incredible work, and most people are in it because they're passionate about it, and the gratitude is low. And so when we hear it, it is nice, and it is nice to hear. That doesn't mean we don't also welcome the criticism. We want to be great, and we are committed to continuous improvement, but some moderation is nice, and hearing the appreciation is nice. We have incredible peaks. We have an incredible system, and we hope to keep making it even better.
Anyone else? Thank you, Allie. Great, Mary.
Allie, maybe it was 2 years ago, we heard about this initiative to really look at renaming parks and placards and stuff. And I feel like that kind of trails on Chuck's group. They want a placard. And so maybe we could also have an update on where we are as a city on park naming, renaming, placards, and how we're going to acknowledge all of the people whose parks are named after. Thanks.
Yeah. So where we left that effort was incredible recommendations from the students at CU. One of the, I believe, I don't remember, one of the things we've committed to as part of our racial equity work is to develop a formal updated park naming strategy that considers what are now leading practices, that perhaps park names are not in perpetuity. Maybe they're revisited after a certain amount of time. Some agencies, New York City, for example, is revisiting park names every 50 years to ensure that they continue to align with community values. So updating that is on our wish list and not on our work plan. It's something we hope to have time for. One of the things you'll hear about is we are very careful as we talk about the upcoming Violet Park development to refer to Violet Park as its working title. That's been a working title because it's on Violet Street. It's not intentionally or thoughtfully named. And we really look forward to a community conversation about. That's when you'll see the findings from that report, right? Where of our parks that are named for people, they're not telling the whole community story. They don't celebrate very many women. They don't celebrate very many people of color. It's overwhelmingly white male founders of Boulder, right? When we were settled by white settlers in the early 20th century. So Mary, I say that to just be responsive to you and that it is on our minds and it's not something we have capacity for. What we committed to is to as it relates to addressing racial equity, to lean in on the work that we do to make our programs equitable. The naming strategy is something we want to get to. It's just not primary, but you'll hear about it again just when we talk about Violet Park working title.
Great. Anyone else before I make my update and adjourn? Great. I just wanted to put a shout out for the Play Boulder Foundation. Colorado Gives Day is always like the first Tuesday of December. And so if you are thinking about making a donation, if you could just think about potentially giving back to our fundraising arm of our department here, just consider it. I know they would appreciate it very much because a lot of the funds go to help the low-income kids with the Play Pass program. And with that, it is 8:40, and if there's nobody else, we can adjourn the meeting. That sound good? Okay, great. We'll see you all in a few weeks. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Good night.
Night.